Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. So, it all comes down to this, doesn't it? Sasuke, roared a 17-year-old Naruto as he charged up his final attack. He gritted his teeth at the sheer amount of pain he was withstanding at the moment. The only thing keeping him going was the satisfaction that his brother looked worse than he did. Uchiha Sasuke grimaced. He didn't want this, but he had to. Power, he needed it. But that wasn't the main reason. Uchiha Madara had literally ordered him to do it. He used his position as founder of Uchiha clan and forced Sasuke to commit the act, even though said person was highly against sneak attacks. So here they were, fighting each other to the death, at the Valley of the End. After 2 years of tough training, mastering jutsus and inventing jutsus, Uzumaki Naruto reached Sannin level and attained the rank Tokubetsu Junin, Special Junin. He had grown into a fine young man, growing considerably in height. At a good 6'1", 1.86 meters, and 77 kilograms, he had become quite the ladies' man. He had taken to black Junin attire, with hints of orange on the jacket. He had stopped his loudmouth bratty attitude and taken up one that was cool and calm, not arrogant, but one that carries himself with pride. He deserved it. He had taken out Uchiha Itachi by himself after all. Why else would Uchiha Sasuke so want to kill him then? See, now it brings us back to this point was again. Uchiha Sasuke, finally deemed S-rank missing nin, currently activated his level 3 curse seal, something never heard of, and utilizing his Mangekyo Sharingan to great effect. How did he get Mangekyo Sharingan? It turns out that the Uchiha found Karen to be a good enough company and befriended her, and killed her. Sad, but efficient, at least according to our main egoistic Uchiha. Sakura had long since given up on Uchiha and had apologized over and over to Naruto about how she always used to be such a bitch to him. Needless to say, Naruto forgave her. They became really good friends. Of course, in other people's eyes, that meant they were friends with benefits. Real nice benefits. Naruto had the right to practice polygamy, seeing how he was the son of the Yondaime and the last of his clan. But really, with all these training and missions and stuff, he had literally no time to settle down, so he opted for the next best option, find his mates first, or so his tenant defined it. Sakura, Ino, Hanabi, Tenten, Temari were his main ones, though, during certain missions to other countries, certain princesses became the object of his affections quite willingly, but hey, details, who needs them? He rejected Hinata because he felt that it wasn't really love she saw in him, but admiration, and she found out too later that her love lies elsewhere. Shino was never more surprised. And some would think, how the hell can this Jinchuriki have a love life when he's being chased by countless S-rank missing nins? Well, simple. Akatsuki got wiped out. Sort of. Gaara, Yugito and Naruto joined forces and along with 2 Sannins, and tons of other Suna and Konoha Junins. They came out on top, with Naruto suffering the worst injuries due to the fact that he took most of the hits for Yugito, not wanting her to suffer too much damage, since she had the ability to go into her full, feral state. Gaara was slightly weaker, but hey, the way his sand works is a bonus. Pain and Konan escaped along with Tobi, or Uchiha Madara, whichever you see it. The rest of course was history. Now, one would think that to be able to take down the whole of Akatsuki, the Hokage hopeful surely wouldn't lose to just one last Uchiha Sasuke? Well, yes, if Naruto was at 100%. No one could believe it when it happened. Uchiha Sasuke had just charged at Naruto once the group of 5 reached the Valley of the End. The already exhausted Naruto had no choice but to engage, seeing how Suigetsu and Jugo in his cursed form were holding off against Kakashi and Jiraiya very well. Tsunade had been unable to help, seeing how she had just exhausted her chakra sources trying to heal the rest of them. And so here they were once again, after 5 years. Indeed, it was time to end it all. Sakura could only watch helplessly as Sasuke charged at Naruto with that same maniacal smirk, his new technique Chidori Nagashi, ready to impale Naruto. Yugito groaned as she was thrown into the cliff by Jugo's insane strength. She couldn't access the Nibi's chakra, seeing how the demon itself needed rest after fighting for a whole day. So that left Naruto to fend for himself. Naruto gritted his teeth as he stared at his once deemed brother. He couldn't believe that, the irony, the moment he defeated his mortal enemy and had finally allowed himself to believe that he could settle down once and for all. But no, fate just had to be a bitch and let this egoistical bastard sneak up on him and take his life. Well, there's one thing, he knows, he won't go down alone. Bring it, Sasuke. His jutsu was complete. Now all he had to do. Sasuke snarled as he yelled, "Today, you die. Dobi." And with that, he plunged the attack right into Naruto's chest. Sasuke himself was surprised. He thought that Naruto would at least clash with his jutsu. He wasn't expecting this. He frowned. What the hell is the Dobi thinking? Screams of disbelief and horror filled the air as Sasuke's hand was seen right through Naruto's body. He had torn a hole in the blonde's torso. It was a gruesome sight. Naruto, however, smirked and looked at Sasuke right in the eye. "That's right, I might. But you're coming with me." Fuuton. Rasen Fuma Shuriken. And to Sasuke's utmost horror, Naruto fully released his jutsu, allowing a huge whirling ball of chakra combined with his wind nature and slammed it right into Sasuke, blasting him away, literally. All went silent as Sasuke smashed into the cliff, his body still, and blood splattered all over the floor. He was dead. Suigetsu and Jugo too were silenced soon after. However, it was too late. Naruto collapsed onto the ground, wheezing. His lungs got punctured and it was just sheer will that was keeping him alive. He saw it, in those eyes. Yes, Sasuke was still there. The last attack, he saw it. Sure, he was power-crazed bastard, but that human within him was definitely alive. But he didn't regret his decision to kill him. "Faye, at least we die together." The irony, damn, there goes my peaceful life. Sakura was immediately by his side, cradling his head whilst trying to use the last of her chakra to sustain him. Yugito too was there. For the second time in her life, she was in tears. Naruto laughed weakly as Kakashi and Jiraiya limped over, with Tsunade shivering in fear. Now, the idea to split up their troops seemed to be a really bad idea. It was a pretty smart tactic in reality, seeing how the other troops would be in front of them, taking care of any hostile intrusions, whilst Tsunade and her group moved slowly, giving time to recover. It was all just a plan went wrong really. Tsunade wanted so hard to blame it on herself, but she just can't. Oba-chan, relax, at least now you only have 3 main enemies to deal with, and besides Pain and Konan seemed to be rethinking their loyalties to Uchiha Madara. So, no worries. Cough, cough? Naruto grimaced as he coughed up more blood. Kakashi closed his eyes, not wanting to witness the death of his sensei's son. He hated it. He had failed once again, all because of his want for superiority, using Obito as an excuse to train Sasuke. Nay, Kakashi-sensei, relax. I don't blame you. Just take care of Sakura, she still needs your training. Sakura, Gomen, cough. Sakura bit her lips hard as she cried, "Baka. I told you before Naruto chuckled. I know. I'm apologizing to you for my stupidity. I won't be there with you anymore. Stop it. Just stop talking. Save your strength, come on, look. Even Yugito is crying. You promised that she won't ever have to cry, you promised all of us." He turned to gaze at Yugito, his vision wavering. He could feel it, he was dying. Kyuubi wasn't responding, he was just too tired. There was no way he had any more chakra, and even if Naruto used it, it would end up poisoning himself. "Gomen, Yugito-chan, please, don't cry. Cough. I enjoyed my time with all of you. It was worth it. We saved the other Jinchuriki, didn't we? So don't mourn. I know life is unfair. I know it more than any one of you. But hey, least, I had you guys, right?" Jiraiya sighed. "Kid, no one deserves this. I hate to say it, but any last words?" His remorse was clear in his tone, his face was serious, just like the time he faced Pain and Konan in battle. Naruto laughed weakly. "Nah, cough, no need. You know what I'm gonna say anyway. Well, looks like my time is up. Yane, Mina, goodbye, everyone." And Uzumaki Naruto passed away. Ni Yugito had only really cried 2 times in her life. First was when Naruto kissed her and said he loved her. This was the second time. And perhaps, the last time. At the same moment, "What the hell are you doing here? I thought I freaking killed you?" roared Naruto, as he glared at Sasuke, who was just standing there, his old brooding side apparent. Sasuke rolled his eyes. You did, Dobi. We are dead. Look over there. Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked, only to have his jaw lodged onto the ground. The heck? Okay, I imagined dying to be something a lot nicer than watching my mangled body just lying there. No thanks to you, Teme. HMPH, I didn't want to do it. Madara forced it. He gave an order I can't ignore, seeing how all Uchiha's minds were bound to him. But I don't deny that I wanted to kill you. I guess that will have to wait. I can't feel my chakra anywhere. Naruto snorted. Oh really, you didn't want to do it? Right, I so believe you. Wait, I'm dead, so that means. Still here, brat. The fuck? Why the hell are you still here? I'm out of chakra. When you died, I had barely enough to keep me surviving, but since I'm basically an embodiment of chakra, I got absorbed by the seal. So yeah, I just another entity within you. Meaning you're still stuck with me, only you're useless this time? I resent that. I am still the demon lord Kyuubi. Then why don't you just go back to hell? Look Kit, I am a summon. Contrary to what you shinobis think, but we do die. It is the same for me. You want to blame it on someone, blame it on your father for do this. The seal was designed to absorb my chakra and convert it to yours. While you were off dying, the seal sucked whatever remaining chakra I had left into your system, trying to keep you alive. Sigh, right? But hey, I won't go to hell because of you, right? If I do, I swear I'll kill myself again just to get rid of you if I have to. And pray tell how you're gonna do it. Just shut up. I thought so. Naruto growled and then stopped. Okay, I know that I'm a soul, so why aren't I floating around? And how the hell am I still talking? Sasuke shrugged. Beats me. I still have my cursed seal on me. I guess that must mean that my soul is tainted. He was still in his cursed form, but there was one thing Naruto noticed. Sasuke, why is there a hole in your chest? It was then that Sasuke realized the familiar feeling of power into his body again. Naruto had a chain protruding from his chest, whilst his was a blank hole. He had dismissed it as the wound Naruto gave him, but hell, he was sure that his Chidori Nagashi could have at least scratched him. It was there and then that he sensed it. The calling, the craving, the voice. It was there again. All of a sudden, a loud wail of hatred could be heard coming towards them. Naruto's eyes widened when huge monsters began to appear in the distance. However, that wasn't the most frightening part. It was the fact that they had that similar hole in the chest and their faces were distorted and covered by masks. Masks that seemed to mock their very existence. Sasuke glared at them before reaching for his chakra, only to remember he has none. They were disgusting and dangerous, given the fact that they had 5-foot-wide claws. Yeah, that was enough to confirm it. Naruto gritted his teeth as one took a swipe at him. He barely dodged it, a weird feeling of exhaustion lingering on his body. He didn't know what it was. But then, all the monsters stopped when one leopard-shaped monster crawled up to them, before bowing to Sasuke. We've come for you. Please come with us, our lord is waiting. Sasuke looked at that scathingly, and why should I do that? What the hell is going on here? His red eyes were still present apparently, and he growled, tell me or you die. Power was oozing off him. It wasn't killing intent, it was just a pressure, more like raining down on everyone. Naruto already felt weak, but strangely, although he sort of knew what was going on, he didn't feel at all intimidated. The leopard monster bowed once again, come with us, and our lord will grant you supreme power. Enough to allow you to accomplish your goal. He has been watching you 5 years ago. Even Naruto was shocked by this news. 5 years ago? You mean to tell me someone dead has been stalking him for 5 years? He shuddered at that thought. Sasuke however feel intrigued. Power you say? What are you creatures? The leopard got up. All will be explained once you see him. But time is running short, so what is your decision? Sasuke gave a sideway glance at Naruto, before smirking. Alright, I'll go. HMPH, Dobi, looks like I'm the special one after all. But just tell me one thing. Who is this so-called lord of yours? The leopard laughed and looked him in the eye. He is our god. And without further ado, a strange force surrounded Sasuke and the leopard. We'll be going now, the rest of you, enjoy your dinner. Naruto gaped in surprise. Oi. Teme, you're really gonna? But he saw it, that condescending gaze, that superior smirk. Goodbye, Dobi. Next time we meet, I'll be sure to obliterate you. If you survive, ah ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. and with that, they disappeared. Gone. Naruto couldn't even feel it. His presence, just, gone. He heard the snickers and the growls behind him and gritted his teeth. Oh the bastard, I'm gonna rip him apart the next time I see him, screw that if I freaking see him again. Well, you know the saying, bitches will always be bitches. Classic example there. Not laughing here. Damn, there's 5 of them. No way I can fight. Aw scratch that. Why'd I have to fight? I'm dead, damn it. Life begins with death? Shut your freaking philosophical trap. Duck you fucking maggot. And thanks to Kyuubi's quick warning, Naruto dodged the incoming attack. He was slowly beginning to get used to this new, well, soul maybe, he can't call it body when his body is still lying right there. He began to parry the attacks, flexibility and strength both returning. Only problem is that bloody chain keeps getting in the way. And one more, it freaking hurts if he accidentally pulled the chain somehow. He snarled as one nearly scraped him. He was panting, exhausted, and he hated it. Why is it always that I get beaten by evil guys? Kit, stop this bullshit, I want you to fight. Even in death. Fight, goddammit. You were my vessel, and I acknowledged you. You are Uzumaki Naruto. Now I don't care if we die again, but to be humiliated by these scum would be a definite disgrace. Naruto smirked, will do. And he charged, not caring that he was seriously outclassed. He got into his same old taijutsu stance and used the strongest punch he could master, wham. He twisted his fist right into that mask, shattering it with his blow, before lingering for 2 seconds and yelling, "Take that you bloody bastard!" And using the last of his strength, he smashed the monster away. The other 4 were seemingly shocked that a mere Zanpakuto, soul, could do such extensive damage to one of them. Naruto couldn't care less, all he could think of was, shit, 4 more, shit, no strength, shit. But apparently, he didn't have to fight anymore, for at that moment, Soden ni Zace. Hirenmaru. Reign over the frosted heavens. And following that, a huge ice dragon sort of projectile was sent towards the 2 of them, blasting them into oblivion. Whilst a short white-haired kid landed gracefully on the ground before slashing the final 2 right in the face, causing them to wail that familiar noise before they disintegrated into nothing. Naruto stared at the kid, or whatever he was in front of him. He was wearing a white haori with the kanji for 10 on the back. The thing in his hand then dissipated in a flash of white light to show a katana. He then took out a device, hollow neutralized. 1 or 2 escaped before I arrived. Soul is unharmed. Right. Over. Naruto got a close look at him this time. He seriously looked like a kid of no older than 13. He holds himself with pride and has an aura that screamed, strict, around him. But he doesn't seem all that bad. After all, he did save him. So, hollow, what's that? Naruto asked, trying to get the kid to talk. Said, kid, sighed, right, a hollow is basically an evil spirit that is formed from souls that are left alone for too long without guidance to soul society. Or heaven might be a more appropriate term for you. But just remember that all hollows have holes on their chests and masks to hide their original identity. Naruto gasped at that. Holes on their chests? Oh shit. Damn, emo bastard is evil. Even in death. Great. Wonderful, not? The kid continued. My name is Hitsugaya Toshiro. I am a Shinigami, captain of the 10th Division of the Jusan Gote, 13 Shinigami Court Divisions, of Seirei, Court of Pure Souls. Whoa, wait. I thought Shinigami was that old, mangy devil-looking thing, not some kid like you, exclaimed Naruto, totally confused. Hitsugaya twitched at the word, kid, and growled, I'm not a kid. For your information, I already 257 years old. And the Shinigami you were talking about was the special sealing type, which our Sotaichu, general, has signed a contract with. That is a mere projection of our Ryotsu, spirit pressure, an illusion used to carry out the deed. Okay, Ryotsu? And quartz? Man, heaven is too troublesome, shit, I'm turning into Shikamaru. Ryotsu is the energy Shinigami utilizes for combat, and basically, for living, in this realm. Those who do not have Shinigami powers have a very weak Ryotsu. Hollows get attracted to sources of Ryotsu and would attack souls that do not have guidance. I would assume that you have potential, seeing how you were swarmed by 5 hollows. How long have you been dead for? You've done a good job of evading them. Naruto scratched his head, Half an hour? Silence, then, okay, come again? I told you, half an hour. Give or take 2 minutes. Silence, okay, stand still. Hitsugaya took out his device again and muttered, "Oi, Kara, get me a Ryotsu reading for this guy." Yep, transferring. And not even asking for permission, he stuck the device just above the chain, into Naruto's chest. Hey, what the? Hitsugaya ignored him. So, reading? A feminine voice of God knows who sounded on the other end. Ryotsu test, complete. Hitsugaya Taiko, reading was 982 units. Hitsugaya's eyes widened, so it seems that we have a surprise here. Thanks Kara. Over. He took out the device and pocketed it, before grinning at Naruto, interesting. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Okay, what the heck did you do to me? And what was that 982 reading thing? Hitsugaya laughed. I merely tested the strength of your Ryotsu, that was just a rough estimate of it. A normal Kanpaku with no Shinigami powers would have a Ryotsu reading of around 20. Just enough to survive. Normal, low-rank Shinigami have a reading range of 200 to 300. Seated officers have a reading of 301 to 800. Then we have vice captains, who range from around 850 to 1200. Naruto scoffed, so I should be glad or something. Hitsugaya gave a smirk. You are not even an academy student yet, and already your Ryotsu is formidable. My Ryotsu reading is 1674. And that's my base, not taking into account my Shikai and Bankai. Naruto rolled his eyes. Okay, confused here. What is that katana you have there? It's called a Zanpakuto, it is the weapon we use to purify the hollows. We slay them using this and allow the corrupted soul to rest. You'll get to know them. Come on, time to go. Go where? Hitsugaya took out his Zanpakuto and raised it, Kanso, soul burial. And with a light tap, Naruto felt a strange feeling of bliss engulf him, and as he found himself dissipating, he grinned, nice to meet ya, Toshiro. Name's Uzumaki Naruto. And with that, he was gone. Hitsugaya chuckled. Uzumaki Naruto, huh, interesting, hope you enjoy your life here in Soul Society. A flash of white light, that was he had seen last, and now, he was sweat dropping quite frequently. Just where the hell was he? Streets, people, shops, houses, whatever. What the heck? Why do they look so poor? And no one eats or drinks or, wait. Of course, they wouldn't, they're dead, right? Very good, you figured that out. Genius. Would you shut up? It was very annoying that Kyuubi remained within his body as a somewhat evil presence. It's all random, in Naruto's opinion, seeing how Kyuubi was useless for the time being and that he actually got sucked within Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke was this bad spirit thing, according to that Toshiro captain guy, and even Kyuubi laughed. The almighty Uchiha was a spoilt product. Fitting, but right now, that was the least of his worries. He had no idea where his Junin attire went, but whatever it was, he now wore a pure white yukata. And he wants ramen. But no, nobody sold them. Everyone he asked was looking at him as if he were nuts. And he didn't appreciate that. Some kind people had told him that this place was called the Rukongai, and Shinigami would be arriving today, and that maybe he could go with them. He had raised an eyebrow at the fact that only Shinigami need to eat or drink. It's unnerving, but at least there didn't seem to be danger in this zone. Unlike the shinobi world where robberies, assassinations and all kinds of crap occur. No, here, the worst act he had seen was kids playing pranks, that brought quite a few memories, and stealing stuff for fun. He had tried running around, just to see if anything changed his stamina, strength etc., and to his immense relief, he still retained most of his abilities. Well, he couldn't use chakra, but hey, he could at least punch someone without dying of exhaustion, that was a good thing. His speed, oh his precious speed and agility were intact. He had been so happy that he ran around the whole place over and over, just to get the feel of the wind once again. Naruto, having a wind affinity in his chakra, had learnt to love it. Whether it was in battles or mere walks, he loved the wind. It reminded him of peace, and allowed his heart to be calm. It was soothing, and Tamari had constantly teased him about it. Of course, he didn't really like it when Tamari had whipped 10 Kamaitachi no jutsus at him. But he did like it when the wind he controlled was able to block them from view of their private activities. Sigh, those were the good times. Just then, as he was busy reminiscing the old days, he got the air smashed out of him when a small blob of energy crashed head-on into his stomach. Needless to say, he was still bewildered at why he was able to feel pain, even in death. But that's another story. Right now, he rubbed his dizzy head, before staring at the little girl in front of her. Right, what's your problem? The girl tried to run once again, but then he rolled his eyes and grabbed her by the sleeve. Nah. You're not going anywhere until you tell me why the heck you were running so fast that you couldn't see where you were going. The little girl had long bluish-black hair. Her eyes were red from crying and she sniffed, before hugging onto Naruto, sobbing, "Help. They're trying to bully me. Miyu didn't do it. Miyu didn't. Miyu swears." Now, this was Naruto's absolute weakness. He could not stand women crying. He often found himself bending to their evil wills whenever they cried. He couldn't help it. Not when this little girl looked exactly like Hanabi when she was young, of course. Her eyes were different, but hey, it was like a carbon copy. But hey, he was always great with kids back then, so he gave it a try, his voice gentle and kind. "Nay, tell me, what's wrong? Don't cry. Beautiful girls don't cry." He wiped her tears away, grinning at her, allowing her to calm down. She sniffed a few more times before saying, "Though, those bad black men, lol, I'm not racist, they took stuff from a shop and said it was Miyu who did it. Then, they tried to catch Miyu. Miyu hates them. Naruto couldn't help it, she was so cute, especially the way she referred to herself from the third person's view. "Nay, Miyu-chan, that's your name right?" Miyu nodded, before quickly hiding behind his legs, only sticking a head out to see what's going on. Apparently, those men wearing black uniforms appeared. They mostly looked okay, other than that big blob of blubber strutting his fat ass in the middle of the street. Naruto's mouth gaped. "You're telling me that this piece of useless fat is a Shinigami? You've got to be kidding me. No way I'm becoming that." Marihiro Saburo was having a good day. He had stolen 10 pies from that shop and had blamed it on a stupid girl that just happened to pass by. HMPH, how dare anyone defy him, one from the famous Omeda family. Che, his brother, was a vice captain. Any dumbass would have the common sense to let him do as he pleases. But no, that bloody shrimp had denied stealing them and said it was him. He grumbled as he led the team back to Seiragi after recovering 2 potential Shinigamis. They got a redhead teenager with tattoos for eyebrows, and a very flat-chested girl. Honestly, how could any woman with a chest like that? It was like the breasts were non-existent. Just days ago, that Ichimaru Yaro, bastard, had fetched back a thing of beauty. Her breasts were huge. This wench here had nothing. So obviously, he has a reason for being in such a bad mood, right? Right. Whatever Omeda says, goes. Simple as that. Which was why when he spotted that little girl hiding behind a blonde-haired punk, that visibly stiffened. His hand itched towards his Zanpakuto as he growled, "Gaki, give me the girl and I might let you live. I am a Shinigami after all. You common Kanpaku, souls, have no chance against me. Now give her to me." The redhead scoffed at the fat guy, "Leave her alone. Stop picking on the children." The female however gasped, "Miyu. Hurry and run." Miyu bit her lips before hiding even further behind Naruto. The other Shinigami all had expressions of distaste on their faces. They were from the 2nd division and it was pure bad luck that Marihiro Saburo had the chance to lead this team. Nobody liked him, but everyone feared him, seeing how his brother was the vice captain and he came from a rich family and blah blah blah. They didn't dare defy him, seeing how this guy gives punishments all the time. Marihiro Saburo glared at the redhead. "Shut up. Do you still want to go to the academy?" That redhead visibly sagged his shoulders, giving a large sigh. The female tried to run towards Miyu, but a Shinigami beside her stopped her, his back towards Marihiro Saburo, giving her a sad shake of the head, before whispering, "Don't go against him. We're really sorry for his behavior, but please, don't start anything, you might lose the opportunity to go to the academy." And the girl too, stopped her advance. Marihiro Saburo, HMPH ed, before carrying his fat load of blubber with him as he strutted towards Naruto once again, this time noticing the scowl evident on Naruto's face. "So, you think you're pretty tough, huh? Why don't I show you the meaning of UAGH? Naruto had enough, his rage roaring out as he relived several moments in his own childhood where he was looked down upon. He dashed in front of the fat ass with amazing speed, for a Kanpaku, and drove his fist right into Marihiro Saburo's face. Said fat Shinigami was sent flying head first into a shop. Everyone's jaws smashed onto the ground, unable to believe what they had just seen. Even Miyu looked odd. Naruto's eyebrow could be seen twitching, and his blue eyes turned icy cold. He stood there impassive, glaring at Morihiro Saburo as he stood up shakily. That punch had broken his nose and several of his teeth. Naruto held his right hand out and cracked his fingers. One by one. You say something? His Ryotsu flared at that moment, and an incredible pressure forced Morihiro Saburo onto the ground. The surrounding Shinigami were all shocked, as were the two teenagers. They couldn't believe it, an unknown Zanpakuto having this much Ryotsu? Naruto walked up to the guy and held him up by his neck, shocking everyone further, seeing how Morihiro Saburo was full of fat and must have weighed a ton. So, did you or did you not steal the pies? Answer me. Morihiro Saburo pissed his pants right there, stuttering, hi, it was me, please, just, let me go? His teeth were chattering due to his fear and it had taken him a whole 2 minutes to finish the sentence. Naruto gave him one last glare before releasing him, dropping him onto the ground and walking back to Miyu. Morihiro Saburo immediately grew cocky and took out his Zanpakuto. Now you're dead. No one messes with the Omeda and lives. Now die. And he had charged like the pig that he was, yelling a very, very disgusting war cry, his fat blubber swinging from side to side as he ran, more like rolled, towards Naruto. Naruto shook his head at the way he was holding the Zanpakuto. It was even worse than an amateur. Why was Uzumaki Naruto hailed as the best Junin of Konohagakure? He exiled in taijutsu, ninjutsu and kenjutsu, sword arts. He had learned well from Hayate after saving him in the sand invasion. He didn't necessarily have to fight with a katana, or nodaichi, but of course the survival rate definitely dropped even more when he was equipped with his Anbu nodaichi. So he did the thing that came most natural to him. He stopped the Zanpakuto using an open palm, before grabbing it in place. His eyes narrowed. Miyu-chan, step back for a little while. Everyone's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when the Zanpakuto was stopped by mere skin. It was unbelievable. A sword that was supposed to cut souls was stopped by the soul. Who the hell is this guy? Miyu gave him a quick hug around the legs before rushing into a nearby shop, watching with awe at her savior. Naruto then pulled the Zanpakuto in his hand forward, bringing Morihiro Saburo closer to him, before he backhanded the guy once more. He looked around him and found 2 brooms lying there in a heap. Don't ask why they were there, and smirked. Alright, we'll see who's better at kenjutsu. And he walked over, picking the brooms up before running his left hand through his hair, clearly any stray strand of hair out of his eyes, before he held the 2 brooms horizontally before him. Naitoryu. Nijiri, 2 sword style. 2 slice. And just like how he channeled chakra, he felt his Ryotsu charge up his blades. Morihiro Saburo roared in anger. You think those pieces of wood can beat me? I'm gonna break your face. Roar! And with that, he charged once again. Naruto merely waited, his eyes calm, and as soon as the pig got within range, he dashed forward, eliciting gasps from multiple people, including that black-haired female beside the Shinigami, Toru. Up the stairs, and he had parried the strike from Morihiro Saburo, causing his Zanpakuto to be raised above his head due to the clash. Naruto then brought the brooms down as he somersaulted and slammed them against the Zanpakuto, Otoru. Down the stairs, this time, sending the Zanpakuto right into the ground, leaving Morihiro Saburo unarmed. But Naruto didn't let up, he went on, continuing with his strike, flowing with the wind, Harameki. Flash. This time, they were horizontal strikes and swiped at Morihiro Saburo's chest, before he finished it off, Chikara, power, and dashed past him, coming to a stop with the brooms held lazily in both hands, a smirk growing on his face. Ichi shi koa inashishi su yui. One fat pig served. And to everyone's amazement, and to some others' joy, the Shinigami uniform of Morihiro Saburo was sliced into pieces, leaving him bare to Soul Society in only his underpants. His fat blubber drooped due to the lack of resistance provided by the air around him. Everyone gaped for a few moments, before guffawing at the sight of the very embarrassed Omeda. It was hilarious. Naruto grinned. I suggest you get out of here, before you get hit by parents who can sue you for polluting their children's minds. Morihiro Saburo didn't need to be told twice, before he grabbed his Zanpakuto and rushed off into the distance, yelling, "I won't forget this." Miyu giggled as Naruto ruffled her hair before lifting her up onto his shoulder. "So? Feeling better now?" said girl nodded in enthusiasm before cheering, "Ni-chan sugoi." Naruto chuckled as well, before looking over at the other Shinigami. "Sorry, but that guy deserved it. I'll just be on my way now. Bye." The Shinigami were impressed. This kid, or teenager, was able to use brooms to beat a seated officer's Zanpakuto. Granted, the seat wasn't because of skill, but still. Just as the redhead and female could bombard him with questions as to why he was so strong, a sudden familiar roar was heard. "What are you maggots taking so long for? It's just two people? Jesus." A familiar man came into view, his upper torso now covered by the standard Shinigami uniform, but the tape around his face was still the same. It was so nostalgic, Naruto's eyes widened for a moment, before his face settled into his usual smirk. "Ah, rough as always, aren't you, Zabuza?" Said Shinigami merely raised a very, very thin eyebrow, before gaping. "Kid, is that, are you?" Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I'm dead. Long story." He then grinned again. "Should have known you wouldn't stay still even in death, oh fearful demon of the mist." In a flash, Zabuza held Naruto in a headlock and ruffled his hair. "Huh, brat. Teach you to mess with me? Say, you look awful young. What happened?" Naruto shrugged, "Killed by the proud Uchiha, and yeah, got Kanso and came here." "Anyways, what are you doing here?" Everyone in the scene gaped when one of the Shinigami gave a bow. "Zabuza-san, we had a few difficulties on the way, sorry to bother you, but, may I ask why a fourth seat in the 11th squad?" "A fourth seat officer, knows this kid, whoa. 11th squad no less, the squad that holds the crazy bloodthirsty fighting demons, with Zaraki Kenpachi as their captain." Zabuza gave a lazy wave. "Got a mission to find a very strong soul that had just been given soul burial by the 10th Division captain. Apparently, the Ryotsu was practically oozing off him. But I guess my mission is accomplished. Come on brat, let's get going. Got a lot to introduce you to before you go to the academy." Everyone's eyes widened even further. This kid was the one? Naruto however ignored their shocked looks and asked, "Nay, Zabuza, I was wondering, if you're alive, does it mean that Haku is as well? I still need to bash that guy up for letting Kakashi kill him." To his surprise, Zabuza began to chuckle. "Haha, sure kid, Letty is alive. Sure, you can go and bash him all you like. Mwahaha, ha 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 ha." Just as he was about to ask what the heck was so funny, he felt a gentle tug on his yukata, before he looked down, only to see Miyu pouting. "Nay, Ni-chan, can I go with you?" Naruto raised an eyebrow. "How old are you, Miyu?" He bent down, ruffling her hair. Miyu gave a wide smile. "Miyu is 8 years old. She was 6 when she died." Naruto thought for a while. "Don't you have a home to go to?" Miyu's face saddened. Miyu lives alone, by herself. Miyu doesn't like her home. Naruto sighed as he scooped her up once again. "Sure, do you have a surname?" Miyu tilted her head. "Miyu is Miyu. What is a surname?" Naruto laughed at her naivety for a while, before giving her a small kiss on the cheek. "Okay then, from now on, your name will be Uzumaki Miyu." "Really? Wah, that sounds so nice," cheered Miyu as she hugged Naruto tightly. Just then, Zabuza cleared his throat. Hate to interrupt your great big family meeting, but I do have stuff to do, so let's get moving. Hey you, hurry up and bring those two to the dormitories. Don't want them to be late now, do we?" The other Shinigami quickly nodded and led the two teenagers away. The redhead was grinning, happy that Miyu finally had a home, but the black-haired girl was more intrigued with the blonde's Ryotsu. Not to mention that Naruto was very handsome. Come on, Naruto wasn't voted the most eligible bachelor in all 5 countries by the Kunoichi Weekly for nothing. And so, Miyu plopped herself onto Naruto's shoulder and off they went with Zabuza, walking towards the familiar place called Seireitii. In Seireitii? Alright, brat, we'll go from division to division. Of course, you must first go through the academy course for 6 years before you are allowed to take the test to see if you are Shinigami material. Basically, they teach you the 4 main aspects of Shinigami combat. Namely Kido, Demon Path, which is sort of like ninjutsu, Hakuda, hand-to-hand combat, basically taijutsu, Ho-Ho, step method, pure speed, and finally Zanjutsu, swordsmanship, Kenjutsu. And of course, what rank were you when you died Gaki? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Elite Junin, was going to be Rokudame Hokage. Zabuza gave a whistle. Niece. So, familiar with all those? Yeah, I specialize in taijutsu, ninjutsu and kenjutsu. Speed is my utmost trump card. I did after all, master my father's Hiraishin no jutsu, so it shouldn't be a problem. Your father, as in Konoha's Kiroi Senko? Yellow Flash, Zabuza asked, shocked. Yep, so anyways, let's start. Where are we? Zabuza shook his head at the brat's nonchalant attitude towards his own achievements. He stopped. This is the 13th Division, led by the captain Yukitaki Jashiro, vice captain is Shiba Kyan. Ah, Ohio Yukitaki Taiko, just introducing a newbie around before I take him to the Sotaichu. Main General, that white-haired man gave a warm smile. Ah, good to see you Zabuza-kun. Kenpachi hasn't been too harsh on you has he? Zabuza smiled bitterly. Yeah. But anyways, we need to go. Yukitaki then shook Naruto's hand, his eyes widening when he felt the Ryotsu literally oozing off Naruto and chuckled. Good to see we have some new talent. Next stop, 12th Division. To say Naruto was freaked out would be an understatement. Miyu had clung onto him tightly, whimpering at the sight of all those huge as test tube things in that science lab. It reminded him too much of that snake's experiments. Captain of the 12th Division, Kuritsuchi Mayuri, with vice captain being his daughter, Kuritsuchi Nemu. Good thing they're absent. Let's just go. Naruto couldn't agree more. He noticed that Zabuza seemed to relax the moment he stepped into another main building, that sadistic grin on his face apparent. Now here brat, is heaven. The Dream Sanctuary, where all us fighters unite. 11th Division, leader, Zaraki Kenpachi, vice captain, Kusajishi Yachiru. Ohio Zabu. Who's Kiroi-chan? Squealed a pink-haired girl who was about the same height as Miyu. The two girls hit off just fine, but Zabuza seemed skeptical. Listen Naruto, if you value your sanity, you will do well to stay away from Fuku Taiko, she's seriously wrong in the head. Naruto chuckled, before bidding goodbye to the small girl. And then, they went to the 10th, where he laughed wholeheartedly at a grumbling Hitsugaya Toshiro who was currently overwhelmed by paperwork. The vice captain was absent, so they just left after a while. Naruto was extremely happy that Toshiro gave him the permission to visit whenever he wanted to. When he went to 9th Division, he was a bit freaked out. The atmosphere was just too silent. Everyone was training on their own, or sparring, but it's just lacks energy. Scary silent if you will. The captain, Kanami Tosen and vice captain Hisagi Shuhei were introduced and Naruto seriously wanted to get out. That Tosen guy freaked him out. Why too quiet? Shuhei was cool though. 8 was just a serious contrast. The moment he entered the main office along with Zabuza and Miyu, he was greeted by the sight of Ai's Naneo bashing Akiraku Shunsui onto the ground with her book, yelling about how captains should not be lazy and stuff. Reminded him of a combination of Sakura and Ino when they got pissed. But hey, Shunsui offered him some sake, and in his opinion, any who loved sake was definitely a good guy. 7th was weird. The captain, Komamura Sajin, wore this huge as armor and helmet, and too had an aura of silence and strictness around it. The vice captain, Iba Tetsuzaemon was a gangster literally. He wore sunglasses and swore whenever he wanted. 6th was a real shocker. Nobility, eerie silence this time. The captain, Kuchiki Byakuya was so bloody like the Hyugas, what with his holier-than-thou attitude on at full blast. Needless say, Naruto didn't really like him that much. 5th was boring. Literally. The captain seemed okay, though Naruto kept getting this weird feeling whenever he was around him. Aizen Sosuke was his name, vice captain was Ichimaru Jin. Now that guy was pure weird. Fox-like slits for eyes, that creepy grin. God, Naruto hated him on first sight. Yuck. Miyu had the same idea and even stuck out her tongue at him. Zabuza laughed at the way the two of them looked. They could pass for real brother and sister. Next was the 4th Division, which until now, was the one he found most at ease with. The captain was a very polite and mature woman, Yuno Hanaretsu. Miyu loved her, and she adored the little girl as well. Zabuza gave a brief overview of the division's specialty before both captain and vice captain arrived, thinking Zabuza was injured once again. Vice captain was Katetsu Izan. Miyu had even asked Naruto whether or not she could stay there when he was at the academy. Hana gave a slight nod, before saying she was welcome any time. It was then that the biggest shock came to Naruto. The third seed of the 4th division was Haku. And Haku is wearing her Shinigami uniform with a white sash across it, making it all the more obvious that Haku is a girl. "You're a girl? But you, Naruto was freaking out. All these years, he had thought that it was a guy that taught him how to protect his precious people, and then you found out that you were actually constantly thinking of a girl." Haku chuckled. "Well, I didn't want others to underestimate me, so I had to say that." Gomen, she had filled out fine. Her porcelain skin, her small smile, and her curves. Whoa, even Naruto had to admit that she could have beaten Ino in the last contest for Konoha's wise teenager. Finally, before they left, Haku had given him a kiss on the cheek, thanking him for what he did. Naturally, Naruto scratched his head, giving her his foxy grin, before assuring her that it wasn't a problem. Now this impressed Hana and Izan. Normally, a male Shinigami just seeing Haku smile might have a nosebleed, especially those bastards from 11th Division. However, Haku had kissed this young man on the cheek, and he didn't seem at all fazed. Maybe Soul Society finally had a rookie that was not perverted. At the same moment, all the rookies that are perverted sneezed, including some female ones. But on we go. Zabuza skipped the 3rd division, seeing how the captain was away on a mission. Now came Naruto's favorite part, 2nd division. He almost smirked devilishly at the thought of being able to scare the heck out of that Marihiro Saburo guy. Zabuza noticed it as well, and chuckled at the maniacal glint present in the blonde's eye. They first met the vice-captain, whose name was Omeda Marichio. The sound of that surname caused Naruto's eyebrow to twitch ever so slightly, and though he greeted as politely as he could, he was still bewildered as to why the division that specializes in assassination and hand-to-hand combat consisted of 2 royally fat bastards. That Marichio was just like his brother, arrogant and cowardly. Naruto could tell straight away. The way he carried his Zanpakuto around proves that he shows his partner, Zanpakuto, all swords masters think this way, no respect. Zabuza then brought him deeper into the division, before they entered a room with a futon laid out in the middle of it, with a very exquisite-looking woman sitting cross-legged, meditating. She was wearing her standard Shinigami captain uniform. Her navy blue hair is worn short with 2 long braids covered in cloth. She gave off a calm and cool aura, making Naruto think of only one word, hot. He smirked as he gazed at the woman once more. This time, she caught his eyes and he stared right into them, face unmoving, only his smirk growing wider by the second. He gives a polite bow, before leaving along with Zabuza and Miyu. Soifun raised an eyebrow at his forwardness and gave a silent chuckle. Things are going to be different soon enough. Finally, they reached their long-awaited destination, the 1st division, where the Sotaichu Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni resides. His vice-captain is away, and so, it was the 3rd seat, Sasaki Chojiro, that led them in front of the general and creator of the 13 divisions in Soul Society. "Ah, Uzumaki Naruto, I presume?" spoke the very old man. Naruto had to hand it to him. He could tell that the old man was really strong, and to keep it like that at such an old age was an impressive feat. He saw the old man's eyes focus on the small body of Miyu, who was now asleep after a long day of adventure. "Yes, I am. And this is Uzumaki Miyu, my adopted sister." He placed specific emphasis on the word Uzumaki. Yamamoto chuckled, "Very well. Uzumaki Naruto, you are the holder of the Kyuubi no Yoko, are you not?" Naruto's jaws dropped open, as he gaped at the old man. "It was my Ryotsu that sealed it, you know. Your Yondaime is currently sealed off in Seirei and will be awakened only when the time is up. Your Sandaime Hokage, however, shall be awake soon, seeing how sealing off 2 arms takes a lot less out of me. Now, I'm here to discuss your duties." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Okay. This guy knows a little too much for my liking, sort of like G-san when he gets all serious." Yamamoto continued, "For all it's worth, Kyuubi no Yoko should have mutated into a hollow once it became dead. However, due to special circumstances, things have obviously changed. Now, I want you to tell me what it was, that hollow response we received right next to yours." Naruto sighed and told him his tale of pursuing Sasuke and how they met, how they fought, blah blah, and finally, he reached the part where he died. Yamamoto nodded, so, he went with the hollows. I see. Thank you for your information. Now, we have to allocate you to the academy. I'm sure that you have been a very powerful being in your lifetime, but here, I'm afraid that you still have to go through the 6-year course and gain your Zanpakuto in the process. Naruto cursed. He was hoping he could skip all that and just start being Shinigami straight away. To Naruto, anything related to studying sucked. End of story. Yamamoto chuckled, yes, I know how you feel, but here, Zabuza will take you there. Your little sister, however, will have to live somewhere else, but you can visit her anytime. Do you have any place in mind? Naruto immediately told him that Hana Taiko welcomed her presence at any time. The general nodded, before getting a 4th Division Shinigami to carry the sleeping girl back to their quarters. He then turned back to Naruto. I heard you had a scuffle with one of our Shinigami and I reckon that girl is the reason? Naruto huffed and crossed his arms, his eyes determined, scowl and all that evident, disgust apparent as he remembered the arrogant look on that Marihiro Saburo guy. Stupid nobles with their long names. Yamamoto chuckled once again, Uzumaki, let it be known that I expect you to pass this course with flying colors. I shall see you in 6 years. Good day. Naruto raised an eyebrow in confusion, before bowing along with Zabuza and left. The old man shook his head slightly as he got the 3rd seed officer to appear before him. Get the head of the Omeda clan here. We need to talk. Hi. With Naruto. Okay. You mean to tell me that I'll be living with a girl and that I would be doing so for 6 years? Who chose the room setting? Naruto deadpanned. Zabuza chuckled. Apparently, it was Yachiru Fuku Taiko that picked the lots, and so it was pure luck. Aw kid, it ain't so bad. Naruto scoffed. Easy for you to say. Aw heck, it can't be tougher than completing S-rank missions, can it? I'll survive. Thanks by the way, for wasting a whole day with me. Zabuza laughed. Oh no, I have to thank you, brat. I got to slack off my duties for such an interesting tour with you. Besides, normally, Zaraki Taiko would have tried to attack me 10 times over. Good luck. I remember that I had to get trained as well, but I could skip the academy part, seeing as I was quite old already. Naruto's eyebrow twitched, clearly angry at the fact that Zabuza was rubbing it in his face. Well brat, enjoy. And with that, Zabuza left, laughing all the while. Naruto grumbled and took a look at his key. Room 541. Aw man, he had lived alone all his life. I mean, sure, he had spent several nights with his beloved ones, but hey, that was all there is to it. Now you're telling him that this has to continue for 6 years, the horror. Naruto sighed as he inserted the key into the door, and opened it, before he came face to face with the same familiar black-haired female this morning. One problem. Said female just came out of a bath and is currently in the process of changing into her clothes. Both just stood there frozen. Then Naruto scratched his head. Yo, I just got admitted into the academy. Name's Uzumaki Naruto, at your service. He chuckled nervously, noticing the increasing shades of red the female was currently showing. Well, since you're so generous, let's share a bee. Heen in Nantito-ai, screamed the female as she chucked whatever she could grab her hands on at Naruto. Naruto expertly dodged all of them. Oh shit. Wait, I was just joking. Honest. Oi. He was finally grabbed by the collar and the female's face was right in front of his in a moment. Blushing in embarrassment and anger. Any last words? She whispered in deadly silence. Naruto gulped, before giving a nervous grin. I'm gonna be your roommate for 6 years? Apparently, that was the wrong thing to say as said female smashed her fist into his face and sent him rocketing out of the room, impacting the wall with strength equivalent to one of Tsunade's punches. He could never understand how females seem to get strength from nowhere and just explode at the sight of perverts. She then proceeded to slam the door in his face, and all turned silent. Naruto gently massaged the place where he got hit. Damn it, why on the face? And I didn't even get her name. He then sighed and proceeded to try and knock on the door, wanting to apologize for the matter, when suddenly, a huge scroll fell from the ceiling, unrolling right in front of his eyes, with the words right in front of him, "Welcome to the Academy. Enjoy hell for 6 years. Bawahahahaha," with a chibi Zabuza giving a peace sign at the bottom. Silence, then, fucking bastard. I'm gonna rip you apart, roared Naruto as he proceeded to tear up the scroll into pieces, before pounding on the door once again. Oi. Open up. It was just a misunderstanding. The anger in him was clouding his mind, but he didn't care. He was tired and he wanted to sleep. No answer. Look, I'm really sorry. Won't happen again, promise. No answer. Naruto twitched, before he muttered a quick, "Gomen," before yelling, "Alright. What are you angry about, you flat-chested bitch?" There wasn't much to see anyway. Immediately, everyone in the corridor who had been eavesdropping gave a loud, ouch, before listening on. The door nearly flew off the hinges as a very angry female individual came at him with the intent to kill. "What did you say, you perverted bastard?" Naruto rolled his eyes. "Nothing. Just want to sleep. Night." And he just walked past her, ignoring her furious glares. "And what makes you think you can just charge into my room? I'm your roommate, Jesus, I told you already." And Naruto listened to the female utter completely incomprehensible words of fury at him, including several very, very bad swear words. But he seemed unfazed as he slowly began laughing, causing said female to look at him in confusion. He stopped, before he gave her a once-over, before smirking again. "I think I could begin to like living here." "Say, what's your name?" The female blushed slightly under his scrutinizing gaze, and her tone, though still angry, held less malice than before. "Why should I tell a pervert like you?" Naruto sighed. "Look, really wasn't my fault. That Zabuza guy just told me to come in. I apologize for my less than amusing jokes, but really, I told you my name. Least tell me yours, oh high and mighty princess?" His grin was there, meaning that he felt no need to apologize for his joke earlier on. The female sighed, before mumbling something. Naruto cupped a hand to his ear. "What was that?" "My name. It's Rukia. Ah, pleased to meet you. Now, if you don't mind, can we please go back in and settle the matter instead of letting everyone in the other rooms continue eavesdropping on us?" Only one word comes to mind when anyone at the academy sees Uzumaki Naruto. Prodigy. And even that is an understatement. He was an enigma, a sponge, absorbing all the knowledge taught to him in a flash. For once, he actually enjoyed the academy, seeing how he excelled in it. And it wasn't just the practical aspects of it, the theoretical parts are extremely pleasing as well. Though he had to say, the history of Hollows, Shinigami, Quincy, Seireitei, Rukongai and all sorts of crap are still damn boring. Theory for Hakuda, hand-to-hand, was hilarious. Well, at least for Naruto. They taught the academy students basic ways of trying to hit an enemy. They had even added in some angles. God, Naruto almost died of laughter again. Obviously, he had no problems in Hakuda, he aced it. What did you expect? Apparently, a lot of people didn't expect that. Especially certain bullies in their 5th year. Once again, someone found it funny to insult Rukia of her assets, or lack of them. Or him. And well, Naruto didn't feel too happy. A simple execution, at least to him, of Konoha's Omet Renge, Lee's crazy spinning lotus move, had left quite a few impressions in the training grounds. Aburai Renji, the redhead along with Rukia that day, had gaped at his show of power. The guy he threw must have weighed 5 times Naruto's weight. Matsumoto Rangaku, Izuru Kira, Hinamori Momo, along with Naruto, Rukia and Renji had become close friends. They had met one day after a Zanjutsu lesson, swordsmanship, and due to Renji's and most of all, Naruto's excellent performance, they obviously attracted quite some attention. Renji was really impressive, though Naruto did spot a few blatant flaws. Overall, Renji passed as a very good swordsman. Kira, however, seemed the weak type, yet he excelled in Kido, whereas Renji screwed up bad. The basic Kido taught was the red flame cannon, and whilst Hinamori had been able to blow half of the intended target, Kira blew the whole target with very high accuracy. Renji blew himself up. Rukia did pretty well and had very good aim as well. Naruto though, whoa, average aim, but that wasn't the point. See, the way Naruto sees it, if you got power, then you don't really need to fuss with aim. He proved his point. His shot was 3 times bigger than everybody else's, so naturally, he hit his target as well. To say Kido was ninjutsu was an understatement. Hell no, Kido was easier than ninjutsu. Naruto didn't even bother to learn the longest chance. Those were basically used in the place of hand seals. Now, the reason why Kido is easier for Naruto is the use of Ryotsu instead of chakra. Chakra is the living essence of a body. It is produced and emitted by tenketsus around the body, and have to be forced out in precise amounts, for fear of getting chakra exhaustion or wasting chakra. However, Ryotsu is spiritual energy, merely the mental side of things. Chakra requires both physical and mental energy. Ryotsu is just the soul's actual energy. And it didn't have a chakra limiter system like all living bodies do. Meaning all you had to do was force it out. And for someone like Naruto, it worked wonders. Having Kyuubi was a big help. He had remembered every single jutsu Naruto could or could not do, meaning Kyuubi acted as the library. Jutsu, formed initially by the user, channeling the correct amount of chakra, sent to the correct tenketsus, formed the correct hand seals, voila, there you have it. Kido merely requires a few chanting to increase one's focus. And of course, control of Ryotsu. Well, for a skilled ninjutsu user like Naruto, Kido was basically child's play. But he never told anyone, though he secretly realized the reason why Zabuza and Haku were able to get seats so easily. Any Junin-level shinobi would pass Kido test easily. They made it a silent rule, where they would always meet up during lunch and after school at the little lake within the forest. It was so quiet, and they could hold spars against each other, or discuss some of their skills, or which division they wanted to be in, and stuff like that. They had already finished second year before Naruto had tried to use jutsus, not with chakra, no, with Ryotsu. And surprisingly, it worked. He emitted the Ryotsu he deemed enough, thought of the effects of the jutsu, focused, bam, one jutsu done. Oh ho ho, the ability to use Kage Bunshin had never felt so sweet. Miyu-chan loved it, she never got bored this way. For Naruto would send a Kage Bunshin over to 4th division every day, just to keep her company. The girl was a heartthrob for everyone in that division. She was just so full of energy, so naive and so cute. Laughter could be heard coming from the 4th division every day, and for some reason, 11th division Shinigami rarely dared to insult the 4th division Shinigami anymore. Well, Zabuza had basically threatened all his division members that if that Miyu girl so much as pouted, he would deal with them. Reason? Naruto could kick Zabuza's ass anytime he liked. And Zabuza knew it was true. Sure, the kid had just about the same Ryotsu as him, but the skill. There was a skill difference, especially in Kido, Hakuda, and most devastating of all Ho-Ho, step method. His speed was incredible. Many just thought it was because he died with extremely good skills, but that was only half true. Only Rukia, Renji and Matsumoto knew how hard Naruto trained every day and night. He wouldn't relent. If there was something he couldn't accomplish, he would keep at it, until he gets it, he wouldn't stop. Rukia had always watched him at times like this. She found it very soothing, to just sit by the side and silently cheer Naruto on, watching the handsome blonde working out. She would never admit it, but she's fallen for the blonde. He was just too much of a gentleman, and the fact that his body was that of a god was enough reason. Once again, Naruto discovered the horrors of fangirls. He was even more unnerved when fanboys turned up all of a sudden. Renji and Kira always laughed at him on this topic. It was hilarious, seeing this great prodigy running from girls. Of course, they shut up when Naruto beat them up in Hakuda classes. 2 years had passed, and it was currently in the 3rd year. Today would be the day they get to create their own Zanpakuto. So obviously, everyone was giddy with joy, some brimming with excitement. Naruto was extremely grumpy, due to the fact that Rukia had been up all night, chirping about finally being able to hold her very own Zanpakuto. God, Rukia, I know it's a big deal and all, but please, just quiet down for a sec. I lack sleep and I don't like it. Naruto mumbled as he had to steady himself before he fell asleep while walking. That wouldn't be too cool now, would it? Rukia pouted, "Che, I wasn't that loud." Naruto rolled his eyes, before his voice imitated a high-pitched shriek, "Oh yes. I get my precious Zanpakuto tomorrow. Oh my god, I hope it has something to do with the Usagi-san. Rabbit, oh I can't wait. Yes, the joy." And needless to say, everyone else laughed at this display, leaving a very red Rukia, embarrassed and angry, baka. Before smashing him on the head, effectively stopping his endless tirade of her enthusiastic speeches. Renji and Kira laughed the hardest, seeing Naruto was actually quite close with his imitation. Even Hinamori couldn't help but chuckle. But just then, the instructor came in, and everyone quickly became quiet. "Alright, settle down, Today, as you guys know, is the creation of your Zanpakuto. Several cheers were heard throughout the room, Rukia's being the loudest. Naruto groaned as his snooze was interrupted. His eyebrow twitched when Rukia gave him a kick under the table. It was unnerving, this woman had dared to, oh she will pay. By the time the instructor finished, he had already taken out a list. Now, when I call your name, step into the room. First off, Shusuke Aisawa. And so, one by one, the students went in. There were 4 rooms, so 4 could be creating their Zanpakuto at the same time. Rukia, Renji and Kira had all gotten theirs. It didn't look like much, just standard katanas, but Naruto had to admit, the auras of the blades felt different, as though content that they've got such nice users. Matsumoto and Hinamori went next, and before long, they got theirs. The funny thing was, that the less talented people came out pretty quickly, whereas good overall students like Rukia and Hinamori took slightly longer. Kira was specialized in Kido and took quite a while. Same goes to Renji, who specialized in Zanjutsu. Finally, after waiting for a good half an hour, his name was called, Uzumaki Naruto. Please step forward. At that, everyone hushed, wanting to know what would Zanpakuto the prodigy could create. It wasn't that much of a big deal though, seeing how most Zanpakuto in their sealed state looks the same anyways, but hey, this is going to be your partner after all. Naruto gave a sigh, appalled at the idea that he had to move his ass from the seat to the room. He was damn sleepy, so forgive him for being so cynical. But one thing cheered him up, there was Izan, along with a cheerful Miyu, waving at him through the windows of the room. He was the last one, and frankly, Naruto swore that the instructors did that on purpose. He visibly twitched when the instructors told the students to pay attention to his actions. Yep, it was on purpose. He grinned back at the vice-captain of the 4th Division and his beloved sister, before stepping up to the orb-like thing. Naruto raised an eyebrow as the instructor handed it to him. Now, channel your Ryotsu through the orb and maintain the output. Focus on the areas you excel and just go with the flow. He was a bit skeptical at that thing, but nevertheless, he did it. Miyu was out there, watching in awe as the orb glowed a bright crimson. Now, reason being that each person has their unique color of Ryotsu. However, seeing that right now, everyone had quite little energy and so for others, the orb usually glowed black, dark blue, purple etc. Crimson was a first. The instructor chuckled at this, but motioned for Naruto to continue. Even Izan was slightly intrigued, wanting to see what kind of potential this kid had. Naruto smirked, before thinking of his shinobi life. The parts where he excelled Kit, I would say protecting others would be a good thought. HMPH, that's what you based your Nindo on anyway. Ah, indeed, quite nostalgic. I already have people I would die to protect. Miyu-chan and Rukia. Hell, maybe Renji and Kira can count. You know Hana Taiko, Izan Ne-chan, Haku. Ah yes, you do have a fetish for that certain female Haha, perhaps. She taught me how to protect, it's only natural that I thank her by doing the same for her. Little did Naruto know, that as he was continuing his internal discussion with Kyuubi, the orb glowed brighter than ever. In fact, the last time this happened was when Kyoraku Shunsui and Yukitake Jashiro took the test. Before long, the Ryotsu gathered within the orb, solidifying, slowly, bit by bit, as though the Ryotsu itself was alive, carefully considering its choices before forming the weapon. But that wasn't the most surprising bit. When the weapons appeared, everyone gasped. There were 2 Zanpakuto floating beside Naruto, one on each side. And slowly, Naruto's eyes opened, and the final Ryotsu embedded itself within the Zanpakuto and the glow died down. The instructors themselves were gaping. 2 Zanpakuto. The only other one to have 2 in the sealed state was Kyoraku Shunsui, Taiko of the 8th Division. Miyu was cooing in awe, yelling out, "Ni-chan. Sugoi. You're so awesome." Izan too was shocked. Having 2 Zanpakuto was rare indeed. Naruto smirked before plucking the 2 katana-like Zanpakuto off the air. He admired them for a while, before grinning, "Nice. Looks like I will be able to continue using Nitoryu after all." He grabbed the scabbards and sheathed his Zanpakuto, before fastening them onto the left side of his belt, just like how he used to in Anbu. He enjoyed the feeling of them by his side. Ah, it feels so right. I really look forward to my Shikai now. After class, the only topic throughout the school was how a mere third year had conjured up two Zanpakuto. Sure, he was a prodigy, but it was amazing all the same. Renji had caught him in a headlock, ruffling his hair. Well, looks like the prodigy strikes again. Nice Naruto. Kira too congratulated him, as did the others. Rukia gave him a genuine smile. Well done. Naruto snorted, hey, it wasn't a test. Besides, it doesn't mean that having two Zanpakuto is stronger than one. That's bull, it depends on the user. Just then, he heard footsteps. Fear began to flood him. Oh no, no. Ni-chan. And once more, that familiar blob of energy tackled him onto the ground at full force, almost sending him into a comatose state. Naruto groaned as he heard Miyu giggle. Miyu didn't hurt you, did she? Is Miyu a good girl? Everyone laughed as this was just a common scene. Miyu was loved by all. And everyone knew how protective Naruto was of his sister. Seriously, once a cocky 5th Division Shinigami had bumped into Miyu and had yelled at the girl for not looking at where she was going. Miyu was along with Hana at that time, and really, it wasn't her fault. That guy did it on purpose. Hana was just about to step in, when surprisingly, Miyu had bit her lips, before giving a cheerful smile. Gomen nay. Miyu will be more careful next time. Gomen. And she even bowed a little, emphasizing the point. The guy grumbled, before leaving the scene, not wanting Hana to punish him. However, once he left, Miyu had grabbed onto Hana's legs. Itai yo. Miyu's knee hurts. To think that a mere 9-year-old would understand the subtle importance in division affairs. If Miyu had thrown a tantrum and Hana had given the guy punishment, the guy could file a complaint to his captain, twist the facts and get Aizen to argue with Hana, regarding the matter of whether a Shinigami should be held in less respect than a common child. Instead, Miyu did the sensible thing. She held it in, apologized and complained only after the guy left. Hana loved the child even more after that. So considerate, she could imagine her image when she grew up. When Naruto got wind of the news, he was furious. He had asked Miyu what the guy looked like and stuff like that, and the next day the guy got ambushed by traps set up in just outside his room. Until now, nobody has got any evidence to prove it was Naruto. Over the years, Miyu had grown extremely attached to Hana, Izan and Haku. Haku treated Miyu just like her own younger sister. To Miyu, Haku was always the nice, gentle sister, seeing how Haku usually pampers Miyu and almost always obliges to her requests. Izan was caring but strict as well. Hana cared for her like she was her own daughter, and though she didn't say it, everyone knew that Hana cared for Naruto in the same way. Needless to say, both were extremely happy. Naruto gave a grin, before ruffling Miyu's hair, and plopping her on his shoulders. Yosh, since the day's over, let's go have some fun with Uncle Zabu. Miyu gave a cheer at the thought of seeing her uncle sparring with Naruto. Of course, he would not release his Zanpakuto, but now, Naruto was itching to fight once again. Oh yes. Izan caught his look and sighed in exasperation. Fine, be that way, but I'm telling you, I won't patch you up if you get into a brawl like last time. Naruto chuckled and together with Miyu, they both suddenly gained puppy eyes and gazed teary at Izan. Really Izan-ne-san? Really? Izan, under the power of the might puppy eye jutsu, sighed, fine. Both of the Uzumakis cheered, before rushing off, leaving a very amused Rukia, and an exasperated Izan. Renji and the others were just about to leave, when suddenly, an extremely old man, along with the instructor of the class came up to Rukia. Rukia-san, if you would be so kind to step this side, we have certain matters concerning you. With Naruto and Miyu. Yo, Uncle Zabu, come out wherever you are, yelled a grinning Naruto as Miyu giggled. And right on cue, a huge burst of mist appeared in front of them. How many times must I tell you, never to call me that? The vein was almost popping on his forehead, his teeth gritting, his fists clenched. Oh yep. This was the demon of the mist all right. Naruto chuckled, works every time. Indeed, he gently placed Miyu on the ground, before he unsheathed his two Zanpakuto. Yo, came to spar with you. Got a minute to spare? Zabuza's eyes widened. Too? Naruto smirked. Scared? Zabuza growled before leading the way. You're on. The 11th Division was out on Hollow Hunting Day, as they called it, and so it was quite empty, save for a few hardouts training. They chose an appropriate training ground before Zabuza said, "Okay, bring it." Naruto chuckled, "Miyu, stand back." Miyu gave a quick nod, before moving to the sidelines and cheered, "Go Ni-chan. Don't beat up Uncle Zabu too badly." Zabuza death glared her, "Brat." Naruto however, held the Zanpakuto in front of him, Nitoryu, Takanami. Hawk Wave. And utilizing his speed to great effect, he dashed off, sending 2 Ryotsu shockwaves at Zabuza. Said person merely HMPH'd, and blocked them using his Nodaichi. Naruto took the opportunity and continued with a series of strikes, each aiming at Zabuza's vital points, forcing him on the defense. However, Zabuza wasn't the 4th seat for nothing, and roared, "Not good enough," and began parrying all of his attacks, before moving in for the offense. It was an intense fight, and both loved it. Zabuza then spotted an opening, and smashed one of the Zanpakuto out of Naruto's grasp. "Huh, looks like someone's just all talk." Naruto then grinned evilly, "Oh, Zabu-chan, take this." Hado no Sanjuichi, Shakaho. Destruction Art number 31, Red Flame Cannon. And immediately a huge ball of flame shot out of his palm. Zabuza barely dodged before Naruto continued, "Hado no Sanjushan, Sokatsui." Destruction Art number 33, Blue Fire Crashdown. A wave of blue flames found their target, blasting Zabuza into the wall, before Naruto grasped his own Zanpakuto tightly once again. "Now, this is the main deal, Kaden. Enden. Fire Element. Flame Burst." Zabuza's jaw almost dislocated due to the fact that he had just witnessed Naruto perform a ninjutsu without using hand seals. He barely dodged it, before yelling, "How the hell did you do that?" Naruto grinned, not telling. "Figure it out yourself." Zabuza knew it was no small feat. Sure, that jutsu was one of the most generic ones in the fire element arsenal, however, just being able to not use hand seals was amazing. This brat never ceases to amaze him. Naruto then got into the familiar stance, Nitoryu. Nijiri, 2 swords style, 2 slice. He charged, Horomeki, flash, slashing against Zabuza's Zanpakuto, before forcing it to the right, Rai. Thunder, 2 lightning quick slices from above, before finishing it, Nami. Wave. 1 final clash with Zabuza, intending on pushing him back. "Oi, brat. Heard that one of your friends is being adopted into the noble Kuchiki family. She happy?" Zabuza asked all of a sudden, not stopping with his attack. Naruto raised an eyebrow and parried it, Really? I didn't know. Did you say a she?" "Yeah, I think it's the one you live with." "Rukia was it?" The strikes were like meteors, strong and quick. "Well, good for her then. It's about time someone recognized her potential." Naruto grinned, happy for his best friend, though secretly, he had always considered her a girlfriend of his. Zabuza chuckled, "Brat, you seem awful glad to let her leave." He stopped the spar and looked at Naruto. "Huh? What do you mean let her leave? Where is she going? You mean you don't know?" "Wah, those in the noble families do not need to undergo the training in the academy. They get trained specially by other instructors. So basically, she'll be moving to the Kuchiki family soon." Silence. Absolute silence. Naruto's eyes widened, before he sheathed his Zanpakuto, "Bastard. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" And immediately, he took off, "Miyu, stay with Uncle Zabu and annoy the hell out of him, you hear me?" Miyu gave a mock salute before cheering, "Hi." And so the horror for Zabuza began. With Naruto. Damn it. Leave? Flashback. "Nay, Naruto, it feels good to have friends, doesn't it?" What are you talking about?" "Of course it is." Rukia gave a small smile, "I'm glad you're here." Naruto grinned, "See? I'm awesome." Rukia cursed as Naruto applied some antiseptic cream onto her knee, "Damn it, it hurts." Naruto chuckled, "For someone who always seems so strong and bossy, I can't believe you're whining over a knee wound." "Ah, shut it." Naruto shook his head, before finishing up, "Alright, here, does it hurt still?" And gently, he blew on the wound, trying to relieve her of some pain. Rukia blushed, and "No, it's better now. Be careful next time, alright?" Naruto playfully gave her knee a gentle kiss. "Don't want beautiful girls falling all over the place now, do we?" A vein appeared on her forehead. "Hey. What's that supposed to mean?" Naruto. "Look, Whoa. Above them was the night sky, filled with stars. Sateki, Dane? Beautiful, isn't it? Ah. He grinned, that's one of the reason I came here to see it with you. Rukia raised an eyebrow, Baka, you're just as surprised as I am. Naruto chuckled, well, I first came here to gaze at the night sky to help you relieve some stress. Thanks, no problem, Haim-chan. Rukia sighed as she failed the Kido again. She had tried it for ages, but that damn Sokatsui, blue fire crashdown, thing just won't work. Naruto appeared then, yo, how's it going? Rukia grumbled before turning away from him, not wanting him to see her messed up face. But Naruto didn't give up, not too successful Meh, just keep trying, you'll get it. But for now, turn around. Reluctantly, Rukia turned around, pouting, whereas Naruto witnessed her soot-filled face, incomplete combustion. He chuckled silently as Rukia hissed at him in anger. He took out his handkerchief and began lightly wiping her face, whispering, there we go. There's the girl I've been waiting to see. Rukia bit her lips and smiled, arigato, Naruto. Flashback end. God damn it, how can she just leave? Roared Naruto as he dashed back to the dormitories, only to find the room empty. He was just about to dash off, before he ran into Renji. Oi, watch where you are, Naruto. Naruto gasped for breath, before grabbing him by his clothes, is it true? Is she? Renji sighed, yeah, Kuchiki Byakuya came himself. I was there. I told her to go. Naruto's eyes widened, before cursing. Renji clenched his fists, it's for her good. She needs it, you know it as well. Naruto can't believe it. Tears were actually falling, he gritted his teeth, yes, I'm not blaming you. I know it, we all know it, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. Renji clasped a hand on his shoulder, giving him a shake, she's at the spot. Go see her, she needs you right now. Without a word, Naruto rushed off. Renji sighed again, before muttering to himself, I'm too old for this shit. I need a beer. As in Shinigami years of aging, 50 human years equals 1 year here. At least just aging-wise. At the spot, all was peaceful. The moon was hanging up in the sky, relaxing itself, almost mocking those on the ground. The stars beside it were cheering, sparkling brightly in the night. Rukia sighed, damn it, even nature is laughing at me. Rukia, she stiffened. She knew that voice. How could she not? In an instant, 2 arms encircled around her waist, pulling her into an embrace, with her back to him. His ragged breathing along with the heat he is giving off. Rukia knew that he had been looking for her for quite some time. Naruto? She was silenced when Naruto tilted her head to the side and kissed her right then and there. He was extremely gentle this time, but Rukia could feel it, the desperation in him was definitely there. She kissed him back, but it just wasn't the same. Tears fell from her eyes as they both continued for quite some time. No longer was there the happy, content feeling every time they kissed, now it was just an empty fear of leaving each other. No one really knew of Rukia and Naruto this way. Renji sort of knew but didn't tell anyone. They had kept it really secret. They didn't want to give the instructors the impression that they were messing around in the academy, though it was fun. Naruto finally pulled away and looked into her eyes. Rukia? She paused, unable to meet his gaze. She didn't want to tell him that she had agreed. She couldn't bear to see the hurt in him anymore, much less the hurt caused by her. Flashback. Yep, that's my life alright. Funny isn't it? Good guys always has it tough. Ah well, I shouldn't complain. I really wasn't that much of a good guy anyway. Not strong enough as usual. Naruto had mused. The sarcasm in his voice was evident. His eyes were filled with melancholy, hurt and disappointment. Rukia could see it, she couldn't believe that this guy had such a tough life. He didn't seem the type at all. One would automatically assume that being treated this way will either make the guy into some super evil dude, or become an emo and kill himself or something. Not this forever happy ball of sunshine. She decided that she didn't like it. Not at all. She hated this side of Naruto, where he blames everything on himself when it wasn't even his fault. Why should he be sorry? He didn't ask to get a demon sealed in him. He didn't ask for the guy to kill him. So why? Reason is that he has too big a heart. And she could tell that it was one of the major reasons why so many girls would fall for him. His eyes were shrouded with ice, those cerulean orbs, lacking energy. He seemed like a totally different person. Rukia couldn't stand it anymore. Naruto, look at me. Naruto sighed, knowing better than to go against a female, a feisty one at that, and looked up, only to find the most amazing thing happening. Rukia was kissing him. On the lips, Rukia seemed different, totally unlike her usual tomboyish self. She kissed him with passion, love and concern, can all be truly felt from the action. He debated mentally with Kyubi as to whether or not he should return the kiss, and Kyubi had settled the argument easily. Brat, if you dare give me that, I don't deserve anyone, bullshit one more time. I'll fucking throw you into the 9 levels of hell myself. Yeah, that settled it, and that night was extremely memorable, stating a new start to their relationship. Flashback end. Naruto gave a sigh, before smiling weakly. Go. Rukia's eyes widened. Wah. Go to the Kuchiki. You deserve it. I'll miss you, but I can cope with it. Naruto hugged her. Rukia. This is a once-in-a-death-time opportunity, don't give it up. If those stuck-up bastards want to adopt you, they must see something in you. It's just like you, only thinking of others. Yeah, that's why you love me, right? Rukia chuckled. Naruto never did have any love for the nobles. She gently caressed his face. I'll come visit you whenever I can, but Naruto, my feelings won't change. Naruto gave his foxy grin. I know. Rukia's eyebrow then twitched. So if I find out that you have 10 girlfriends by the end of the academy, you will be dead Uzumaki. Naruto gulped and gave a nervous grin. Right. But what if they come onto me? Rukia sighed. You're just a flirt in nature. I can't help it anyway. She was silenced once again by Naruto's lips. This time the kiss was way more passionate than before. She moaned as Naruto's tongue entered her mouth, exploring it, fighting for dominance with hers. It was rough and Rukia loved it. He knew she did. You know, you're actually very beautiful if you act like a lady. What was that? Haha, so easy to rile you up. Damn it, I hate you, you bastard. I know. I love you too, baby. The night never seemed more beautiful. 2.5 years have passed. During this time, Naruto fully mastered basically all of the main Kido spells, all the Zanjutsu styles, academic, and for Hakuda, yeah, he's the man, literally. For Ho-Ho, step method, however, he was actually able to master even Shunpo, flash step, which is not supposed to be learnt until you're at least a seated officer, and even then, little people could control the speed and fatigue caused by this technique. And now, it was time to see if he was ready. He snorted. Obviously he was ready. Renji, Kira and Hinamori were selected as a team, and for Naruto, since he was the prodigy, or so they said, he would be only placed in the same team as Matsumoto, seeing they were the odd two out. Each team has a medic from 4th squad on standby, in case things start to get out of hand. The exam was to be held 2 days later. Mission? Hollow hunting. Oh yeah, finally some action you would think. But really, to Naruto, he knew it was going to be boring. All those hollows that would appear would be stuff like creepy crawlers, rank E hollow, attack power almost equal to 0, in other words. Weak. And really, it wasn't because of Naruto's arrogance. No, it wasn't. Every single academy student that had at least got a pass in their tests so far can pretty much take on a creepy crawler on their own. Well, Naruto must have been bored all these years. Wrong again, he had another job. Oh yes, he trained Miyu. Miyu had shown definite signs of having Ryotsu, probably due to constantly being around Naruto, with his huge source of Ryotsu interacting with her soul all the time. The girl has developed. However, Naruto only taught her the basic Kido, simple Zanjutsu and Ho-Ho. Hakuda was a bit troublesome. Well, Miyu was a girl. And Naruto's best taijutsu stance, targeted the chest, throat, and face a lot. So Naruto had let Haku teach Miyu taijutsu, or Hakuda. What was more interesting was the fact that Naruto taught Miyu the basic academy ninjutsus, only incorporating them into the Kido course quite subtly, only to cheer silently when she managed to learn them. She was just like her brother, always full of energy, never giving up in training. Her specialty was definitely Kido. She loved it. Naruto had found her ways of utilizing them very interesting. She would control her crimson flame cannon and make it float there. As in, she was off, sparring with you and slowly leads you to the flame ball, and boom, you got hit. It was unnerving, such good control at such a young age. Miyu just blushed whenever she was praised and thanked her brother and her favorite sister Haku for the training. Of course, she always noted that her brother and Haku were more than friends. And Naruto would chuckle and lightly hit her on the head. Haku too, didn't deny it. After all, there wasn't a point seeing how the rumor has spread throughout the whole Soul Society, saying the lovely ice princess had been taken. There were only 2 women in Soul Society that were given the sacred stature of being an ice lady. Cold, blizzard exterior, warm, fuzzy interior. Ice Queen was Soifun, captain of the 2nd squad. That everyone knew. There was an uproar when news got to them how the ice princess has been melted by the prodigy. Naruto rolled his eyes whenever Renji and the others pestered him about details. Haku just giggled before resuming her training with Miyu. To be honest, there weren't anything between them, yet. Just a few kisses here and there, and some nice hugs, yeah. Miyu loved Haku and was extremely happy that Haku had admitted her affections for her brother. Naruto seemed not to notice Miyu's extremely high actions that day, and just let her be. He sighed, Rukia got to be a Shinigami ages ago. That's not fair. Kit, nothing's fair, even in death. Yeah, shut up now. Rukia, after being trained by a personal instructor, was admitted into the 13th division under Yukitake Jashiro. Her vice-captain was so much like Naruto in so many ways that it was scary. Rukia had been shy and pessimistic at first, scared that people would talk behind her back that she got in because of her noble status. Kaien Shiba had merely smacked her on the head before telling her to grow up. Naruto laughed at the letters Rukia had sent. It was always full of whining and sighing. He would read it to Miyu and Haku as well, since they were pretty good friends. Miyu always asked, when is Rukia-ne coming back? Naruto would just sigh, before hugging her, soon. And now, here they were, at his dormitory. Haku had come along, intending on helping him clean up his room, seeing how Renji's probably trashed it. And yes, Renji had become his roommate for these 2 years. It was fun, but at times, Naruto wanted to murder the redhead for his less than average tact. As he was about to open the door to his room, he couldn't help but twitch. Nay, Renji-san. What is this thing that you were reading with naked woman in it? Silence, deathly silence. A huge killing aura was being emitted and clearly, Renji felt the full effects of it. That's just... He tried to answer but apparently, he could feel the eyes of the devil itself staring at his back. Wah, what are they doing? What is the girl sucking on? Looks disgusting. Ew, Renji-san wa hentai. Renji is a pervert. Miyu tilted her head, flipping through the pages when suddenly, a very familiar voice erupted as the door was flung open. That's it, Renji. You died today. Renji squealed in fear as the devil's reincarnate, known as Uzumaki Naruto, was now fingering his Zanpakuto with a furious glint in his eyes, as though locking onto his elimination target. Given the situation, one would actually understand why Renji had bolted out of the room via the windows and had cried like a girl whilst running, begging for forgiveness. Because a second later, Naruto was seen chasing him down like a madman, intending on making him pay. Haku shook her head in exasperation as she took the magazine from Miyu's hands and disintegrated it using her Ryotsu. Miyu-chan, that magazine is bad for your health, don't read it. Miyu, however, with her amber eyes, glanced up in curiosity. Haku-ne, what is it that they are doing? Haku thought for a while, wanting to think of a way to not corrupt this child's innocence. Well, when 2 people of opposite really like one another, they bond together, and yeah, they carry out that action, or events to show their love for each other. It was sort of true, albeit twisting the facts a little, but hey, overall, it was a pretty good, clean version of the definition. Miyu thought for a while, before smiling. Ne-chan, do you and Ni-chan like each other? Haku smiled gently, whispering, yes, we do. Why? Nay, so do you and Oni-chan do that too? In an instant, Haku's cheeks blushed a very intense shade of red, enough to surpass that of Hinata's. No, we don't do that. Haku stammered in embarrassment. Miyu seemed confused, but didn't you just say that people who like each other do that? Haku gulped, calming herself down, before answering, that act you see in the magazine, is only done, when, the couple is very intimate with each other. And well, Naruto-kun and I have not reached that stage yet. Apparently, realization dawned on Miyu. Oh, I see. I thought so. I mean, why would Ni-chan put his head between your legs and MPH-MFPF? Haku had quickly clamped her hand around Miyu's mouth, preventing her from saying it. Miyu pouted. Ne-chan. Haku put on a stern face, though on the inside, her heart was beating very fast. Her mind was wandering along the lines of what could happen if they were in that position. No, no, bad thoughts. Bad Haku. Miyu-chan, you're still young, you don't have to know this yet. Miyu thought for a while, before nodding, before suddenly asking, Nei-chan, what does masturbation mean? The magazine says that. Haku was wrong, her face could get redder. In the distance, Naruto had snarled, Renji. And of course, a very, very pathetic groan, no. 2 days later, Renji was currently cowering behind Kira, shivering in fear whenever Naruto glared in his direction. Not to mention the fact that all the female friends of Renji had lost respect for Renji, scoffing in his direction every time they met. Miyu, due to unforeseen circumstances, had been brought to Unohana by Haku, and after explaining the situation, said woman was very annoyed. Technically, it wasn't really Renji's fault. He had been in his room, doing his homework, trying to go through all the Kido incantations that could be useful once more before the exam, when Miyu popped in. At first, they were just joking around, when suddenly, Miyu squealed and shouted, Yay! Renji-san has a book. Obviously, Renji didn't give it much thought, thinking, what the hell, just a textbook, nani? And then, Naruto just had to arrive that moment, just before Renji was going to snatch that book away from her, praying to any god that is out there at the moment that Miyu wouldn't say anything, and she just had to go and say it, Nay, Renji-san, what is this magazine? Needless to say, Unohana gave Renji a good scolding, before repairing his mutilated body. Naruto had visibly calmed down after Renji's explanation. He knew Renji didn't mean to be so daring as to just put a porn magazine on the side of the bed, but that morning, Renji was rushing through stuff and whilst throwing his books everywhere, trying to find his assignment, it must have been left out. Even Haku sort of vouched for Renji, he wasn't that much of a pervert, just a teen with hormones. And since Miyu had cheerfully nodded that whatever Renji said was true, they let it slide. And so, Unohana had to give Miyu the talk about the birds and bees earlier than expected. Kira sighed, Renji, you seriously know how to screw things up. Renji huffed, hey, I already told you, it wasn't really my fault. He once again whimpered as Naruto and all the other girls, including Hinamori and Rangaku glared at him. Usually Rangaku wouldn't really mind guys reading porn, but this time, said guy had got caught, by a 10-year-old girl with the purest mind ever as well. The horror. But luckily, the invigilators have arrived and saved Renji, alright. Get into your groups and find the respective medics that shall be leading your team. Naruto gave a glance at Matsumoto, before shrugging and walking over to the list, seeing who would be their medic. Some guy called Kirabuta Mugai. Rangaku snorted at that. What kind of name is that? A.N. Kirabuta means yellow pig. Mugai I just made up cuz sounds weird. Lol. He sighed and looked around for the medic with the number 8 on his tag. Renji, Hinamori and Kira were all set with their medic, ready to go. Naruto groaned in annoyance as their medic have yet to arrive. He hated tardiness, thanks to a certain sensei of his. But just then, gasps could be heard throughout the room as a beautiful woman walked in, panting slightly, Gomen. Mugai is caught up with an accident. I'm here to replace him. Haku? Naruto gaped. A third seat. As in, a third seat, as their medic. Whoa. Haku giggled at his expression and nodded. Hi, I'll be your medic. Now if you're ready Naruto-kun, let's get going. A fly could have flown in, you know. Naruto narrowed his eyes and picked his jaw off the ground, only to find Rangaku trying her best to stifle her laughter. He deadpanned, very nice Haku, managed to make me out as a complete dumbass, thanks. Everyone laughed at that, but instantly stopped when the invigilators spoke, alright. Here we go. Remember, this is your final exam, so go out there and show them what you've got. Should the alarms sound, immediately cease all your combat and head to the nearest escape point. Your medic should know where it is. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Haku began to chuckle nervously. You don't know it, do you? She gulped. Rangaku sighed. Well, I guess having a third seat isn't that advantageous. Haku looked offended. Hey. Come on. If anything happens, I'll still protect you guys. At the mock battlefield in the living world. It was typical, just like the higher-ups, to make this place resemble an excavated science organization or something. Towers, labs, all that stuff, and the eerie silence and the dark black sky to intimidate the examinees. Naruto snorted when one of the weaker ones actually exclaimed, "I want my mummy." He shook his head, clearing his thoughts, definitely not wanting to disappoint Haku and Rangaku. He carefully controlled his Ryotsu output, wanting to let out just enough to detect enemy presences in the surroundings. With a swipe of the hand from the invigilators, the examinees dashed off to their supposed positions. And sure enough, there they were, the oh-so-frightful creepy crawlers roaring weakly all the while, slugging their fat carcasses towards the Shinigami hopefuls. Rangaku glanced at Naruto, asking for his cover, before dashing towards them. Naruto sighed and began channeling his Ryotsu, Destruction Art No. 31, Crimson Flame Cannon, and shot off a huge ball of fire towards the middle of the hollows, effectively halting their assault. Rangaku demonstrated her speed and skill in Zanjutsu, taking out at least half of them. Naruto then brandished his Zanpakutos, concentrating for a moment. He had yet to find out the name of his Zanpakuto. He had no idea why he couldn't. He would usually dream of his Zanpakuto, and always get the image of a smiling lady, waving at him gently. And so, he made it a habit of channeling part of his Ryotsu onto his Zanpakutos before fighting, showing respect for his partner. He leapt into the air, "Alright, bring it," and charged into the battle. His Zanjutsu was extraordinary, each slice, each slash, each hit was all connected in one swift move, as though he was dancing. It was marvelous to watch, his skill clearly shown to be worthy of the title prodigy. No hesitation could be seen in his eyes, he knew what to do. Just like Zabuza and herself, they had been in these situations before, only this time, it's hollows instead of enemy nins. He growled as all of a sudden, the numbers seemed to increase. Haku frowned. Wait a minute, where did those come from? She glanced over at the invigilators, seeing their confused looks, and their raised eyebrows. Ah, so it wasn't supposed to happen, but how? Slowly, the creepy crawlers began to tire down the examinees, even succeeding in injuring a few of them. There were just too many, and it was impossible to be focusing on 10 hollows they were twice your size at the same time. Even if they possess little threat, getting sliced even a bit does not feel good. Naruto's eyes widened in alarm as he realized more were beginning to surround his team. He gave Matsumoto a warning glance, jutting his head towards the base. "Go. There's something wrong. I'll try and halt them. Go ask the invigilators what's the problem." Matsumoto hesitated before dashing off. She had taken a hit for him previously and her arm was tired as hell. She had killed 20 or so creepy crawlers already, yet they still kept coming. Naruto held his Zanpakuto in front of him, parallel to one another, horizontally pointing to his left, before taking a deep breath, waiting for the opportune moment, before he began. Nitoryu. Tatsumaki. Two-sword style. Dragon coil. The Ryotsu around his sword flared for a mere second, before he spun around, unleashing the full force of his attack on every hollow around him, blasting them backwards. The shockwaves created were able to kill a couple, but given their huge size and Naruto's rapidly draining stamina, most were merely blown onto their backs, their legs squirming helplessly, trying to get back up. Naruto had killed his fair share of hollows, around 30 of them, but somehow, those that came after him grew stronger after he killed each one, before he realized it. The creepy crawlers were feasting on the dead, gaining more hollow powers. He saw them getting up again, and at that moment, the alarm sounded. Emergency alert. Emergency alert. Huge hollows sighted. Evacuate the vicinity immediately. I repeat, huge hollows sighted. Please evacuate. At once, all hell broke loose. The examinees were screeching out in fear as they rushed to escape. A few of them barely got close to the exit without tripping over. Renji, Hinamori and Kira were amongst the ones further away and therefore were a bit slower. Naruto's eyes widened when he felt their auras appear. He shakily turned his head around to witness the disaster. No less than 5 huge hollows appeared. Somehow, they managed to ignore the security Ryotsu wall and just charged in. Each of them were at least 10 stories high, and the claws or whatever accessories they had were around 5 stories long. Rangaku was frozen on the spot, alongside the other medics, some of which quickly yelled out to the invigilators. Akiko Kairi immediately contacted Soul Society whilst the other 2 began to evacuate the remaining examinees. One of the huge hollows took a swipe, and without any warning, one of the invigilators was dead. Apparently, he took the blow for the group to buy them time. Hinamori was shocked to the core, unable to move, and even as the huge hollow descended upon her, she couldn't do a thing. Only when Renji and Kira's combined Kido. Destruction Art number 33. Blue fire crashed down, smashed right into the huge hollow's face, did Hinamori react. True to her instincts, she quickly dodged beneath the claw and sent another crimson flame cannon at it. And with that little distraction, the final group began to run. Akiko Kairi, the chief invigilator, was trying her best to at least stall for time, but to no avail. All the medics were gone, and Haku was already tending to the injured ones. Only people left on the battlefield were Naruto and the trio. And right then, the hollow chose to appear. It just blurred into existence and stood menacingly in front of them. Matsumoto yelled, "Run! Hurry! Naruto! Mina! Just run!" She wanted to help, but she was being restrained by her classmates, not wanting her to run to her death. Naruto was surrounded, so were the trio. There seemed to be no hope left, when Naruto chuckled, right, you guys think you're strong EH. He took in a deep breath, before temporarily relaxing the muscles in his arms. Before that hawk-like glint appeared, Ichi Rakan. One protector. The bicep on his left arm bulged to a huge size, at least twice of what it was before. Then, Ni Rakan, two protectors. The same happened to the bicep on his right arm. He then turned 180 degrees, crossing his Zanpakuto over his head, his back to the hollow. "Take this if you dare." The huge hollow seemed amused and raised its biggest claw, hovering it for a while, before swinging it down full force. "Naruto!" yelled Renji as the others could do nothing but stand there helplessly. Naruto, however, was concentrating. Nitoryu Gonriku Kiri. Two swords style steel strength slash. And he spun around in a flash, Zanpakuto brimming with his crimson Ryotsu, and smash. Both katanas and claw clashed together, forcing a standstill. "RAAAAWWWRRR. Don't take me lightly, you bastard," yelled Naruto as he focused almost all of his Ryotsu into that one attack. It was overwhelming. The sheer force exerted by the Ryotsu he was emitting was insane. The other huge hollows had to take 2 steps back, whereas Renji and the others were flung back 10 meters or so. Haku and the rest had to shield their eyes due to the brightness of the flare. It was incredible, even Hitsugaya hadn't been able to do this. A single academy student, using a sealed form of his Zanpakuto, clashed one-on-one against a huge hollow, and was currently forcing it into a draw. Unbelievable. The hollow winced as its claw slowly cracked under the immense pressure. Naruto gave another deafening roar, making use of that tiny moment, whilst the hollow let down its guard, and with a sudden eruption of Ryotsu, he channeled his strength fully in his arms and boom. He succeeded. The huge hollow was sent falling backwards, crashing into the ground, forming a huge crater before disintegrating into nothing. Naruto landed back onto the ground, Zanpakuto at his sides, his eyes unfocused, his breathing harsh and uneven. The area suddenly glowed in a bright light, and before he knew it, he was on a grassy plain, with the sun shining brightly in the sky, birds chirping, flowers blooming and everything. He blinked, before spinning around to meet the lady he kept dreaming about. He gaped slightly, before muttering, "Why you?" The lady nearly chuckled, "What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Remember me? My name is..." Naruto raised an eyebrow in confusion. I didn't get that. What's your name again?" The lady sighed, before shaking her head slightly, her beautiful aqua-colored hair flowing in the wind. "I guess, it still isn't time for you to realize your powers. You're strong, yes, but even now, you do not have that same determination you had." "I'm sorry." Naruto frowned before a realization dawned him. "You're the spirit of my Zanpakuto, aren't you?" The lady chuckled, before taking a seat on the grass. "Yes, or more specifically, I'm a manifestation of your will, and this place is your mind." She smiled warmly at him one more time. "For now, you will need my ability, but only this time will I grant it to you. Next time, I hope to hear you call my name." She sighed, her voice filled with melancholy as the world began to change, with the plains slowly dying away, the rocks and pebbles melting as though the ground was made of acid. The trees were dying due to the lack of water and the whole environment became unbearable to stand in. Naruto gasped as the lady began to glow. "Naruto-kun. I like the sunny days that you provide. And I intend to help you keep it that way. She reached out and caressed Naruto's cheek. You are currently experiencing extreme fatigue and severe injuries due to combat. This is the result. When your mind registers this fact, this world changes. She beamed at him. You have the ability, Naruto-kun. I believe in you, and I know you trust me as well, but just that isn't enough. I hope the next time we meet, it'll be with the sky as blue as your eyes, with sunlight kissing us softly on the skin. For now, we part. I look forward to your next visit. She stretched out her hand, let the harsh winds engulf her, before she whispered, use it well. Feel the nature's call. And with that, Naruto phased out of the world before he could call out to the lady once again. The lady sighed, before taking her place on the plains once again, when a huge fox loomed into view. So I see he's been here. At least the kid's not stupid. She gazed up longingly at the sky. Kyuubi, all I can do, is help him. But I know that he won't disappoint us. After all, he is the most surprising person in this whole planet. Her smile was vibrant as ever. Kyuubi shook his head, chuckling lightly. He is, isn't he, and when the time comes, he'll be prepared. You and I will help him get through all these. The lady closed her eyes, her lips curving upwards, awe. Indeed, back in reality? Naruto's eyes snapped open, slowly taking in the surroundings. The huge hollows were surrounding him once again, apparently deeming him a threat to their existence. He gazed at his Zanpakuto, only to see it glow gently, a light crimson shadowing the blade. He knew it. Use it well? Haku was currently running towards him, brandishing her Zanpakuto. Naruto. Stop phasing out. Get over here. She muttered the incantations before shouting, Destruction Art number 65, Blazing Inferno. A huge rush of Ryotsu gathered in the middle of the huge hollows and kaboom. As the name itself suggests, hot white flames erupted from the ground, ensnaring a couple of limbs of the huge hollows. She then yelled, Hiei, Yukiheim. Chill. Snow Princess. A blue light surrounded her, before her Zanpakuto took on the form of an aqua wakizashi, with light streams of snow swirling around it. The hilt was snow white, as was the guard. It was beautiful. Haku brought the Zanpakuto in front of her. Hyoko. Kan. Ice cry. Cold. And with one slash, the snow on her wakizashi blasted forward, forming tiny needle-like projections, storming the huge hollows with a freezing cold attack. Naruto wasn't surprised. An ice-based Zanpakuto for Haku was extremely fitting. But to the others, it was quite surprising. A 4th Squad 3rd seat owns an elemental offensive-style Zanpakuto. The name Ice Princess wasn't solely based on her attitude and stature. For every single seated officer knows, Tsukimiya Haku is currently holding the 2nd strongest ice-based Zanpakuto in Soul Society. Strongest being Hitsugaya Taiko's Hirenmaru. Hyoko. Kori. Ice. The barrage of icicles proceeded to freeze the huge hollows in their places, temporarily though, but enough to buy them some time. Hurry up and get out of here, roared Haku. Renji and the others quickly got the idea and dashed for the exit. Naruto, however, yelled, Abunai. Look out, before he utilized a basic shunpo, dashing towards her. But as he moved, he couldn't help. I can hear it, Dachi no Kuki, Haku no Kuki, Hollow no Kuki. Dachi means earth, Kuki means breath. He could still make it. He sheathed his Zanpakuto, with the wind swirling around the scabbards. Naitoryu Ei. He placed one scabbard on each side of his waist, grabbing them in a reverse hold. Haku was merely watching in awe as Naruto appeared before her, unleashing his, so far, best attack. The shockwave rippled through the huge hollow, quick as flash, and it was gone. Naruto stood slightly bent in front of Haku, before slowly sheathing his Zanpakuto with a confident tone, Rashomon. Then without warning, the hollow was sliced into two, a huge slash appearing right in the middle of its torso, blasting it to oblivion. The other hollows quickly took a few steps back, wondering what on earth this guy is made of, not daring to make any bold moves. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, before looking at Haku. You okay? He was definitely exhausted after this. Haku could tell straight away that he was forcing himself to remain standing. He had gone over the limit. His body couldn't handle the stress, and it could be clearly seen through the throbbing and twitching of the muscles and the uneven heartbeat. Haku couldn't help but pulled him into an embrace, whispering, It's okay now. Relax, you need it. She gently ran her slender fingers through his messy blonde hair, her hands administering healing ryotsu at the same time, relieving the muscles of their stress, bit by bit. She held him close to her, wanting to cherish every single moment of it. This man had just risked his second life to save her. Without any hesitation at all. It was then she knew she made the right choice. She had fallen in love. Naruto chuckled weakly and sighed in content as Haku continued cuddling him for a while before he whispered, "Yeah, I do, don't I?" And with that, he slowly closed his eyes, and allowed the comforting darkness to claim him. Naruto groaned as he slowly awoke from his slumber. His mind was in total chaos, the fatigue, the mind-numbing events, everything. He sort of remembered how he had somehow managed to hold off a few of the huge hollows, but then he blacked out. And once again, before he could even take in his surroundings, that oh-so-lovable ball of energy crashed into his abdomen, causing him to give off a not-too-adequate oof sound. His left eyebrow twitched as he stared down. "Ni-chan, you're alright?" "Yay!" cheered Miyu as she quickly tried to hide the tears that were dripping down her cheeks. Naruto immediately faced her. "Why are you crying? Who hurt you?" "I'll kill the bloody ba," when a hand smacked him on the head. "Naruto-kun, language," scolded Hana as she sat down on the chair beside the bed, gently ruffling Miyu's hair. She smiled like she always did, warm and comforting, puts you totally at ease, and as always, makes it really hard for Naruto to be mad at her. And right behind her, Haku came in. "Naruto-kun, you were unconscious for 2 whole days, and Miyu had been by your side most of the time." She was worried. She then blushed a little, before muttering, "I was as well, we all were." Naruto grinned before giving his loving baby sister a huge hug. "Aw, Miyu-chan. Don't worry, big brother always wins." His grin was so crazy that everyone in the room, especially Miyu, seeing how she squealed and nuzzled her face into Naruto's chest, enjoying her brother's warmth. Naruto ruffled her hair lovingly, before asking Haku, "So, what happened after I blacked out?" Haku tilted her head, smiling slightly as she turned towards Naruto. "Well, before I could do anything, Aizen Taiko and Ichimaru Fuku Taiko came and destroyed the remaining ones easily. And yeah, we all managed to come back in one piece." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" Haku chuckled. "Yeah, that's about the gist of it. Or do you want me to describe just how brilliantly strong they were? Come on, I know I can take on Ichimaru any day." Her rebellious side was obviously showing. Hana shook her head in exasperation. "Haku, you're in the 4th squad. Sigh, I swear Zabuza has rubbed off on you somewhat in his life. Winning isn't all that matters, must I keep repeating that?" Haku pouted. "No really," she pouted. The Ice Princess, pouting. Naruto gulped as he had to control himself as a certain fox sent several images of them doing stuff. "But Taiko, combat every now and then is fun. I have to admit that." Naruto snorted. "Oh my, 4th squad having someone who likes fighting, the sun's gonna rise from the west next." He rolled his eyes when Haku stuck her tongue out at him. "Come on, Haku, you've been around Miyu too much." Miyu responded by giving him a swift punch on the stomach. He laughed as he flipped her onto the bed and began tickling her silly. "Mwahaha, who's the winner?" "Huh? Give up, Niva." "Ah ha ha, Haku ne-chan, save me." Hana ka-san, giggled Miyu helplessly as her brother continued to administer the torture. Now, Naruto-kun, stop fooling around. We have good news for you," chuckled Hana. "Izan should be returning right about now." Naruto raised an eyebrow. What kind of good news? At the captain's meeting? Well, looks like we've had quite the successful batch this year." "Alright then, next, we have Momo Hinamori. Specializes in binding Kido, gentle and polite, had excellent scores in theory exams and did very well during the practical." Yamamoto Sotaichu looked around the room. "So, which squad would she fit in?" Kanami Tosen spoke up first. "I feel that she would do well in Aizen's division. Especially how she specializes in Kido and her well-mannered nature." Aizen gave a nod. "I agree, she would progress well in my division." Little did anyone notice the mysterious glint he had behind his eyes when he focused on the picture of Hinamori. A murmur of agreement was heard, before the next was brought up. Rangaku Matsumoto. Well balanced in both Kido and Zanjutsu, not really fussed about Ho-Oh and average at Hakuda. Once again, balanced in both theory and practical aspects. Hitsugaya, I believe she would well suited for your division, said white-haired teenager merely snorted before mumbling about stupid balances. Aburai Renji, horrendous results in Kido, excellent at Zanjutsu, not too good at Ho-Oh, but definitely above average at Hakuda. Well, so, any suggestions? Aizen actually spoke again. I would think he could be under my division. I could try and make him a little more well-balanced. Zaraki snorted, what's the point, this guy's definitely a brawler. You don't hinder someone's growth like that. The guy wants to fight, put him in my division. Yamamoto sighed, but someone else interrupted, I would like Aburai Renji to be admitted into my division. Everyone raised their eyebrows. Kuchiki Bikuya was actually vouching for someone? Said Noble merely continued on, I saw his report at the practical exam. He showed extreme determination for someone so inexperienced. I'll see to it he gets sharper than before. Naturally, Yamamoto agreed. Kira Izuru excels in Kido, both destructive and binding. Average in Zanjutsu, Ho-Oh and below average in Hakuda. His performance in the practical was quite impressive as well. Once again, Aizen began, definitely one of mine. Though his Zanjutsu and Hakuda abilities might need refining, I'm sure my division would suit him best. Mayuri Kuritsuchi snorted, well, Aizen Taiko, seems as though you're quite intent in getting all of those that played heroes in the practical exam into your division. Quite greedy, don't you think? Aizen merely smiled, but you have to admit my logic. His gaze seems to flare for an instant, but disappeared just as quickly. Ma, no need to argue over things like that. Let's all just calm down and get this over with. Kiraku chuckled as he played the mediator this time. Yamamoto gave a nod. Alright, Kira Izuru, 5th Division. And now, his eyes seemed to light up as a smile filled his face. He chuckled, prodigy of the academy, Uzumaki Naruto. At that, everyone immediately paid attention, wanting to know to what extent this boy's abilities have reached. Yamamoto continued, excels in all 4 aspects of Shinigami combat. Particularly in Zanjutsu with excellent use of Nitoryu, combined with his Hakuda skills in close combat. His Ho-Oh acting as a seed boost, and his exceptional use of Kido for long-range attacks, he is pretty much an all-rounder. Normally, he would be placed under my division, however, he is still too green to qualify. His eyes seemed to be scrutinizing them, as though wanting to see the reactions of his colleagues. Naturally, Kiraku spoke up, pity. Nitoryu, sigh, so hard to come by, but he's not really suited for my division. We focus on glamorous style, he focuses on efficiency. Yukitaki gave a slight cough. Indeed, it appears that if given the choice to fight a possible enemy or to try and solve it peacefully, he would pick the former. Not suited for the 13th. Yamamoto sighed, well, it does seem that way, doesn't it? Just then, Soifun spoke up, if I may enlist him into my division? Now this, got everyone's attention. See, here's the problem. Soifun, never, as in, never, asks for someone to be placed in her division. She sets the bar extremely high for normal applicants, though for nobles, it's pretty much a guaranteed pass due to their status, and it's extremely rare that anyone meets the requirements. Sure, Kuchiki rarely asks as well, but hey, at least he does it more frequently than Soifun. Aizen was just about to object when Yamamoto chuckled, quite fitting if I may say so myself. Do you know what profession he was when he was alive? Komamura sounded intrigued. Profession? If I recall, he was only 18 years old. Yes, he was. But in his world, shinobis start work at the age of 12. Just like he did. Zaraki raised an eyebrow. Shinobi huh? Che, guys who dwell in the shadows, HMPH. Nah, not for my division definitely. Kenpachi, I would think you might want to rethink that decision of yours. But anyway, Soifun, any complaints? Soifun gave a slight shake of her head, no, he's really suited for my division if he was a shinobi before. Yamamoto nodded and once again, stamped over the form of Uzumaki Naruto. Well then, Uzumaki Naruto. 2nd Division. Approved. Back at the hospital later on, Izan was very impressed by where Naruto was placed. To say the intensity of training within the 2nd Division was tough was a severe understatement. To really reach the top, One has to be alert at all times, and able to hold his one against someone much stronger than him, her for at least 10 minutes. So naturally, she had given Naruto a playful ruffle of the hair as she handed him his letter, much to his annoyance. He really disliked his hair being ruffled. Feels weird. He slowly read through the letter, his eyes coming to a stop at the final sentence. Uzumaki Naruto, as captain of the 2nd Division, I warmly welcome you into our ranks. Signed, Soifun. His grin slowly turned into a smirk, widening ever so slightly as his eyes narrowed mischievously. See, that was when Naruto went into predator and prey mode. Kukuku, I'm gonna be having a lot of fun there, wait till I. He began ranting about all sorts of ways of torture and pranks, completely confusing his visitors. Miyu however squealed, Ni-chan. Isn't that fat man in the 2nd Division? Naruto's eyes practically sparkled, indeed Miyu-chan. Oh ho ho, revenge will be sweet, nay? Just then, the door to his room slid open and in came an amused Zabuza. If anyone would want revenge, it would be that guy. Heard about the good news. Good job Brad. Naruto snorted, hey, he dares bully my sister, he shall face the consequences. I'll make sure he lives, though. He'll beg me to end his life when I'm through my list of pranks. Kukukuku. Zabuza rolled his eyes. Anyway, Brad, I'm gonna have to escort you to captain's meeting. You're gonna get an honors badge or something. Che, you just keep giving me more work to do. Said Blonde flexed his muscles for a while, making sure he was ready, before leaping out of the bed, his upper body in bandages, his lower body wearing a pair of hospital-like trousers. He leisurely slipped on some straw sandals and smirked, catch ya there. And with a quick shunpo, he left. Silence, eerie silence, then, get back here you little bastard. I'm supposed to bring you there. And he too. Shunpo ed, off. The rest merely shook their heads in exasperation at the childish behavior of the two. Honestly, even in death, personalities never change. Later on, shame, Zabuza, shame. A 4th seat losing in terms of speed to an unseated officer. My, how the great have fallen. Naruto taunted relentlessly, wanting to get Zabuza to go demon mode and make a scene. He had to admit, it was extremely entertaining to rile up the ex-demon of the mist. No wonder Haku kept doing it. Zabuza was currently twitching, trying very hard not to just whip out his Zanpakuto and cleave the ignorant brat beside him into two. He held his head high and ignored the insults sent at him. And before they knew it, there they were, go on, move your ass in there. And with a huge shove, Naruto was pushed rather unceremoniously through the doors. But hey, he wasn't a prodigy for nothing, so he stabled himself just in time to appear presentable in a formal state to all the captains and the vice-captains. Only ones absent were the 1st Division's vice-captain and both from the 4th Division. Now, the reaction he got was quite interesting. His left hand was resting lazily on his Zanpakutos that were secured around his waist. His eyelids were half open, having a sort of dreamy look in them as he gazed at the officers. His smirk was there in full display, widening in amusement at the looks on their faces. And the muscles that were clearly visible through the bandages on his torso. One word should be appropriate to describe the thoughts regarding the status of the prodigy. Hot. He bowed his head, I apologize for my late arrival, sir. Yamamoto raised an eyebrow, on the contrary, Naruto-kun, you're right on time. I'm positive that you know why you've been called? Naruto's smirk changed to a playful grin, not too sure about that. Is it because I neglected the instructions of the alarms in the exam area telling us to run like pathetic cowards when I should have stayed and fought the battle? The devious glint was back in full power. He loved messing with people who holds high authority. Zaraki snorted at his tone, kid, I like your attitude. Naruto returned with a slight bow, and I am honored to have such a compliment directed at me. Master of all brawlers, Juichi Bantai no Zaraki Kenpachi Taiko. Zaraki Kenpachi of 11th Division. Zaraki merely widened his huge smirk, eyes scrutinizing at the enigma that was before him. He had paid particular attention when the Sotaichu told him that Naruto wasn't exactly the typical type of ninja to emerge from the shadows. And he must say he was intrigued. See, this boy, no, man before him. He has power, but he conceals it, letting it out only if he has to. Naruto's eyes wandered over to Soifun, his future captain, and he had to suppress the urge to wolf whistle once again. There she was, standing there, as though she hadn't a care for the world. Those eyes showed amusement and slight curiosity. Her posture was definitely one of a trained combat specialist. Naruto chuckled. "Ah, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've every intent on trying to live up to your expectations, if you will. Soifun Taiko, aka Ice Queen of Seirei. He was pushing it, yep, definitely, but it was worth it, to just see that tiny blush on her cheeks and her previously nonchalant attitude become one of slight rage. But of course, she showed no signs of discomfort obviously, and merely gave a light, HMPH. Ah, as expected from the coldest female in Seirei. Indeed, what was the #1 tip he had read in the book written by Jiraiya again? What was it? Oh yeah, Female Investigation 101. PFT, as much as he hated to admit it, some of the stuff in there was pretty damn good. Ah, first rule, females are a totally unpredictable and highly dangerous species to ever occur to us males. Naruto knew that any male who disregarded this rule was doomed to hell. Honest. He has yet to find a truer statement, and the reason was positively the work of a genius. Why do we tolerate them? Because we love them. Simple as that. Damn, who would have thought the super pervert new philosophy of all stuff? Zaraki smirked. Showing such disrespect to a captain in a captain's meeting could get you expelled from Shinigami ranks, yet this kid shows no signs of fear. He's good. Meaning, hell yeah, Zaraki will have to fight this guy sometime. Oh, how he's looking forward to it. Yamamoto raised a hand to get his attention and continued, "Quite the contrary, today, we're here to present you with your Shinigami attire, in front of the people held in utmost regard by all in Seirei. Congratulations, Uzumaki Naruto, for passing the exam with flying colors." It was a bit weird seeing an old man smiling at you eerily behind his staff, but the joy was definitely present, and if Naruto had to say, he would confess that indeed, the old man has taken a liking to him, and of course, he too enjoyed the old man's presence, sometimes. But now, he became all serious, like in combat. There's always a fine line between being a fool or a genius. Naruto's no fool. He knows when to be serious. His eyes were fully open now. Eyes that held promise, cold icy blue orbs that held the fiery fires of determination within them. His posture changed ever so slightly, but it was enough to project a totally different image. One second he was a playful flirt, next second he was the experienced fighter. Needless to say, Kyoraku and Yukitaki were more than just a little impressed. The boy in front of them was so much like them combined when they were young. Even Ai's Nanao felt goosebumps on her skin as she witnessed the prodigy before her. So much like Kyoraku Taiko, yet so different. Whilst Kyoraku Shunsui had acted like a pervert, Naruto was merely a flirt, giving the females respect still. And when they were serious, again, subtle differences would be noted. Shunsui's eyes would burn with an intensity due to his fights, and he would be spurred on by his emotions. Naruto, however, would show little to no emotion. Icy cold exterior, leaving no part undefended. No mercy shown, no regrets. Such was the life of a seasoned warrior. It doesn't matter if he just became a Shinigami. Being as strong as shinobi for so many years definitely helped. Naruto accepted the attire with a deep bow, before muttering his thanks. He was about to go, when he raised an eyebrow. "Right, you called me for something else." "What is it?" His smirk was back on. It was unnerving. It was like he was wearing a mask all the time. Well, two masks, interchanging whenever he needed them. Yamamoto chuckled. "Naruto-kun, I'm sure you'll be pleased with this piece of news. Recently, I've recruited a new officer as my vice captain. I would like you to meet him." At that moment, the doors opened, and a familiar old figure appeared, dressed in Shinigami attire with a white robe on top, those sharp eyes, that gentle and reassuring smile. "Yamamoto Taiko, you called?" Naruto's eyes were threatening to pop out of their sockets at that moment. Yamamoto chuckled at his expression and at the confused ones on the other officers. "Meet the vice captain of the 1st Division. Sarutobi Akira. A.N. No, that's not his real name. But hey, I can make it up. Lol. Thought that the guy from Virtua Fighter's name was pretty cool." Quote. Apparently, Sarutobi noticed Naruto as well. His mouth gaped. Naruto? In a flash, Naruto appeared in front of him and enveloped the deceased Hokage in a very tight hug. He would be lying if he said that he merely missed the old man. Hell no, he was freaking devastated by his death. His eyes had unshed tears within them as he quickly took a look at the old man he came to respect, the one who had taught him the will of fire. The one that inspired him to be stronger and protect his loved ones, the one that told him what Hokage meant. Sarutobi laughed bitterly as the irony of it came through. Both were reunited once again, only this time, it was in death. The last time they had seen each other was when Naruto had returned from his C-turned-A ranked mission in Wave Country and had cried his heart out in front of the old man later on, stating clearly his fears during the trip. Naruto, though acting alright on the outside, was a mess on the inside. It had taken much reassurance that Naruto had to let Haku die, and it wasn't his fault. Of course, Naruto had apologized over and over to Haku here, but that's beside the point. Sarutobi wiped away their tears, before replying, "It's good to see you again. Though I have to say that I'm surprised you meet death so young. We'll talk later, for now, you need to go to your respective division to train." Naruto bit his lips, before asking, "How, I thought." Sarutobi chuckled, "Dear boy, trust me on this. I treat you as my own grandson, but, for now, you have to go. I think I have a mission I need to complete first." Naruto sighed, "Well, at least I get to see you again, Oji-san. Great to have you with us." His grin was back, though the emotions could still be felt a mile away. He gave another bow to Yamamoto and the other captains, before excusing himself. Sarutobi's expression immediately turned serious once again. Before he faced Yamamoto, "I assume you want a full report on how his life was." Yamamoto gave a grave nod, and Sarutobi let out a sigh. The other captains and vice-captains looked at each other, confused. Surely the ever-so-vibrant Gaki had a brilliant life to give him such a personality? Why else would you be a ball of energy all day long? Sarutobi lifted his head, a tired look present on his face. "You're not going to like this, but I'll give you an overview first. Uzumaki Naruto, born on 10th of October. Parents were Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato. Number of assassination attempts by the age of 5, 54. A.N. Meh, pushing it a little, trips to the hospital 123. Number of times thrown out of shops, 367 times. Bullied for no reason, too many times to count. Picked food out of rubbish bins to survive? Almost every day. And to the horror of most of the officers at the meeting, they just realized something. Sarutobi Akira wasn't even close to finishing. At the second division, Naruto rolled his neck from left to right, making audible, pop, sounds as he did it, trying to relax his joints. He was going to just sneak into the division as it was, and start carrying out duties or whatever. But no, the vice-captain, the O-grade Omeda Marichio had stopped him, looking him up and down and told him very rudely to obey orders without question. Then, oh joy, who came around? The fat blubber 6 years ago, in Rukongai, brother of the super vice-captain of the division specializing in stealth and combat, Omeda Marihirosaburo. To be frank, Naruto was quite surprised he had actually remembered the long as random name. Of course, being the losers that the Omeda are, or hem hell yeah or hem xd, Marihirosaburo immediately waddled over to his beloved brother and not so subtly yelled out that he had been bullied by this blonde-haired punk 6 years ago. Now, Naruto was extremely amused. Here was a 15th seed officer, crying like a baby to the vice-captain that he had been owned 6 years ago by someone fresh out of the academy. Smooth, real smooth. And of course, seeing how Marichio actually had some brains, he had quickly silenced his stupid brother, for his, well, stupidity, and had glared at Naruto, who was merely standing there, whistling nonchalantly. Now there was a predicament. The vice-captain can't have anyone looking down on him now, can he? So he did the obvious choice, yeah right, and slashed at Naruto using his Zanpakuto in quite a sloppy movement, definitely one that appeared due to severe underestimation. Naturally, Naruto blocked the strike using his own Zanpakuto, quite easily actually, using just one. He shook his head in exasperation. "May I ask why the vice-captain is currently trying to kill a fresh newbie like me?" Oh ho, he had enjoyed it. The mere sight of Marichio turning purple just like his choker was extremely satisfying. Naruto never did have any love for nobles. Especially ones that didn't have the power to back it up. The Kuchiki, Naruto didn't like, but definitely respected. The Omeda, yeah, you guys get the pick. And here he is, getting into his Otoryu. one sword style, stance, as he watched the almighty vice captain of his charge at him. Not quite unlike his brother, only with slightly faster speed. They had attracted quite an audience, and naturally, Naruto hated to disappoint them. Naruto rolled his eyes in annoyance as the power he felt was absolutely pathetic. That ball of fat was still going easy on him. The nerve, well, he won't anymore. Least, not after this attack. A Toryu Kai Setsu. Zanku Ken. One sword style quick cut. Air slicer. He had created this series of moves, adding the superior speeds of Shunpo behind the sheer strength in his attacks. He flickered out of view and appeared behind Marichio in a second Zanpakuto held horizontally in front of him. To the sheer amazement of the onlookers, and of course haters of the Omeda, Marichio's Shinigami attire was sliced into half, leaving them hanging loosely over his undergarments. Naruto turned around and smirked at the furious look on Marichio's face. "You're gonna have to do better than that, Fukutaichu." Marichio was not amused. Oh no, he was not about to get laughed at by a punk. "You're in for it. Butsubuse, Jijetsubori. Smash, 5 heads." And instantly, his Zanpakuto transformed into an oversized spike ball and chain. For a man his size, Naruto had to admit, he was pretty intimidating. Marichio gave a horrid laugh. "You're mine. Scum like you should know their place." Naruto merely looked on, unimpressed. He held the sword out in front of him, a Toryu Kai Setsu. Zangatsu Ken. One sword style quick cut. Moonslicer. Again, dashing off at high speeds thanks to Shunpo, he appeared right in front of Marichio's Jijetsubori. He brought his Zanpakuto up and gave a lightning fast vertical slice, turning around as he did so, placing all of his weight in the attack to increase its power. He ended with his back to Marichio and his Zanpakuto held diagonally to his right, before slowly sheathing it. Marichio totally unexpected the sheer strength in the attack and was forced back a few steps. Even though he is weak in terms of a vice captain, but hey, he at least unlocked his Shikai, he deserved some credit. Unlike his arrogant brother, he didn't go around picking fights, sure showing off he did, but picking fights way out of his caliber, not too likely. He noticed a tiny crack on Jijetsubori and narrowed his eyes. Fine, if the boy wanted to die so badly, he would grant it. Nice cut, but not good enough, roared Marichio as he unleashed his Ryotsu and swung Jijetsubori with all his strength, willing it to crush Naruto. Naruto stood there unfazed, as though totally expecting it. His eyes widened a little at the display of Ryotsu. Damn, well, guess he really does sort of deserve the title of a vice captain, sort of. Meh. He unsheathed his Zanpakuto once again, only using one. He held it horizontally above his head, clearing his mind of all thoughts. He remembered Hayate's words, an attack in Kenjutsu must be precise. Nothing should hinder you, nothing must distract you. He muttered, 6 types of sorrow in the world, further divides into 6 different categories. Can you even feel them? His eyes narrowed as the spiked ball came close. Before he released his Ryotsu, crimson-colored spirit particles erupted from his body. Before he unleashed his attack, a Toryu. Sanju Roku Pondu Hu. One sword style. 36 Troubles of the Phoenix. Note pun can also mean 36-pound cannon. A huge shockwave flew out of his Zanpakuto, clashing with Jijetsubori right on. Marichio's eyes widened as Jijetsubori was flung aside due to the power of the attack, leaving him completely open, and there stood Naruto not even breaking a sweat. He gulped. It seems that he's bitten more than he could chew this time. But before Naruto could follow it up, Jijetsubori was flung back at Naruto, forcing him to jump back. And appearing in an instant, was the captain of the 2nd Division, Soifun. She coldly scanned the surroundings. What do you think you guys are doing? Get back to work. Her eyes glared with fury as the crowd quickly yelled their apologies and left in a very messy manner. She then frowned at Marichio, her words filled with venom. I expect a vice captain to be setting a good example. Are we clear? Her voice was but a whisper, but the authority and the killing intent reinforced her point. Marichio gulped. CC Crystal. I apologize. Soifun spun around without so much as another look before staring at Naruto with little emotion. Follow me. I'll brief you about your duties here. I'll let it slide this once. Won't happen again. And she had left, walking lightly towards her office, her braids flowing in the cool breeze. Naruto raised an eyebrow, before the oh-so-famous foxy grin appeared. So she was playing hard to get with him He sheathed his Zanpakuto and ignored the glares sent at him from both Marichio and Marihiro Saburo, or the looks of awe from all corners of the division. The newbie, or the prodigy, had survived his first day with all his dignity intact. The captain didn't even bother to tell him off. Who the hell was this guy anyway? Naruto eyed the petite woman in front of him, his grin growing wider. A challenge it is then. She had been impressed with his skill, he could tell, from the look of approval evident in her cool amber eyes. He was extremely intrigued with the amount of power she seemed to hold. Her ability to control it with utmost precision and timing, and the execution was flawless. Naruto had no doubt she could devastate Guy in a taijutsu match. If Guy was not opening his celestial gates, we all know he gets all suicidal when he does that. Damn his flames of youth. They had arrived at his office, where she lodged herself comfortably on the futons in the middle of the room, and motioned for him to take a sit. Her voice was soft as a feather. I believe introductions are in order. My name is Soifun, captain of the 2nd Division, commander of the Special Forces and Executive Militia. Amber meets cerulean, and Naruto sensed sorrow from her for just a fleeting second, but he dismissed it as an illusion. Name's Uzumaki Naruto, glad to be here, milady. He couldn't help it. He just loved to tease his captain. It felt like a mission. What happens when Naruto gets a challenge? He welcomes it with a passion. Never backing down. It's gonna be fun, that's for sure.